All right, we will call to order the public meeting number 198 of the Mass Gaming Commission at our offices on Federal Street on Thursday, August 18th. First item on the agenda, Commissioner McDonald.
I move that the minutes of the meeting of August 1st, 2016 be approved, subject to the usual qualification of corrections, typographical errors, or other non-material matters.
Second.
Discussion? I had just one comment, which I'm just going to pass over on, at 12:36 p.m., it refers to a West Virginia conference that I attended. That's not right. It was a West Virginia court decision we discussed, but here's the, I can just give this to Catherine for the change. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, excuse me. The ayes have it unanimously. Commissioners' updates, the only thing that I have is some schedule changes because of a lot of travel. We're going to have our September meetings on September 8th and 22nd. It was going to be scheduled, there were going to be three. So September 8th will be the next meeting and that we have from now, and the first one in September, and the second will be on September 22nd. And then we'll get back into our regular bi-weekly schedule after that. Anything else, other commissioners?
Just one note, our next Access and Opportunity Committee meeting in September is going to be out in Springfield as we switch them month to month. But you and I, Mr. Chairman, I think have the opportunity to sit down with the new president of Springfield Technical Community College after our meeting.
Great. What day is that?
14th.
September 14th?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? All right. We're going to change the schedule a little bit to accommodate the guest's schedule. We're going to take item number 5, the Racing Division. Director Lightbound is not here, so we will be conducted by General Counsel Blue.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
You have in your packet today a memo and some materials regarding the recommendation of the Horse Racing Committee. As you know, Commissioner Cameron is the commission representative to the Horse Racing Committee, so I'm going to let her describe what the committee did and the results that they came to, and then we can consider their recommendations. So, Commissioner Cameron?
Thank you, General Counsel Blue. I think what's important to note here is the committee had all intentions of meeting yearly after the racing season in the fall in order to look at the year's activities and decide if, in fact, the split was appropriate for the following year. In fact, we received a letter from the Harness Horsemen requesting that we reevaluate that split due to the fact that they were conducting the bulk of the racing here in the Commonwealth. Unfortunately, with the change in administration, it took us, an extended period of time to have 2 new committee members appointed to the committee.
By the governor and
by the governor and the treasurer, so we were unable to accommodate that request for almost a year, 11 months and change. So that's an important piece to note. We were able to meet earlier this year, had meetings in May. We actually started March 29th and followed up with a secondary meeting. We were gathering information. We asked each industry to provide a report to the committee on the needs of the industry, how the industry had changed, how they saw their industries, and how, suggesting how the committee should go about its work. So we did receive those 2 reports and had time to talk about them in public at our meeting after reading them individually, and a decision was made since the bulk of the activity around racing in the Commonwealth is with the standardbred. A change in split was recommended, was decided upon, and that would be 55% to the standardbred, 45% to the thoroughbred. And that is a change from the earlier decision, which was 75-25 in favor of thoroughbred racing. The other decision or recommendation, that was a decision. The recommendation the committee had was because of the delay, which is no fault of any of the committee members, and that this request was almost a year old, that would start at this year, this calendar year. So January 1, that split, although the decision wasn't made until June, that the money should be allocated back to January 1. That was an issue of fairness. The committee, 4-1, thought that was appropriate since it took us that long to get to having a meeting and making that decision on the split. So I believe General Counsel Blue believes that certainly we had the authority to investigate and come up with a split that we thought was equitable, but that backdating when that would be effective was probably something this commission should consider and decide. Am I accurate when I say that?
That's correct.
So, yeah, and again, it was, according to the committee, a question of fairness. The request was almost a year old, and we had been unable to meet before that, and that was the rationale of the committee's decision on January 1 versus June 1, now, rather July 1. Now, that will affect some payments, in particular payments that went out to the breeders, but General Counsel Blue does have a plan if, in fact, the commission agrees with the committee that those monies there would be no taking back of monies. There's a way to move forward without taking back money, and there would be certainly some additional monies that would go to the standardbred folks.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know that there's one of the committee members here. Mr. Goldberg, do you have anything to add to the work that we did? You're welcome to inform the commission if you have something additional. It's up to, if you think I missed something, or if there's something.
No, I don't think you missed anything, Commissioner Cameron, Chairman Crosby, commission members, yeah. Listen, if I- a little bit-
Hit the button on that
Just, and introduce
Over- no.
yourself.
and introduce
Peter,
yourself.
Peter, on the mic.
On the mic,
On the microphone, this is the green button, yeah.
Just wait.
And just
So,
introduce
one below.
yourself.
Yep, there it is.
there you go.
How's that? So I'm Peter Goldberg. I am the standardbred appointee to the Horse Racing Committee. I was appointed back in March of 2012, one of the original members, along with Commissioner Cameron. We started our work back in August of 2012. And I think it's interesting just to note that way back in the beginning, and probably our second or third meeting, one of the big things that our then chairperson, John Sherman, brought up and we discussed back again in 2012 was that this is not a static decision. The statute required us as a committee to revisit the split on an equitable basis on a revolving basis. And that was decided pretty early on. When we made our initial recommendation to the commission back in, we voted on, I think, in September of 14, and in November it was actually presented to the commission. It was contemplated that it would be, at a minimum, an annual review. And what we decided, what we talked about and discussed, all of us, and it was 5 members were in agreement, was that the racing season wraps up around the end of October, middle of November each year. So it would be well thought out to have a meeting in October every year to begin the process of getting the data from the prior racing season and evaluating it to see if, in fact, there's any landscape changes that need to be considered. Early in 2015, there were major changes. Just briefly, because I could talk for hours and I won't. In 2014, we made our initial recommendation. Both industries were basically planning in 2015 of racing the same number of live days. At the time, the thoroughbreds were planning on racing about 90 days in 2015, and the standardbreds 100 days, and that's based on a requirement for the Class II license that Plainridge received. So our split was basically, that was one of the major considerations in 2014. Well, early on in 2015, it was apparent that the thoroughbreds were not going to race those 90 days. that's when the request was made by the HHA&E to revisit, to please have the committee revisit the split. And in fact, 2015 bore out that concern. The standardbreds raced 105 days, thoroughbreds 3 days. Unfortunately, as Commissioner Cameron noted, in no one's fault, our committee wasn't seated. We had lost a chairperson and the treasurer's appointee. They weren't reappointed until, I think, early this year, in fact, early in 2016. If all had gone well, if there was no turnover, I'm quite certain that our discussions would have been in October at the latest in October of 2015, with probably a vote in December, and come up with that recommendation to the committee. So that was our main part of the discussion, that this really should have been done in October, November of 15. Again, we weren't able to meet and visit that, but nothing has changed. I mean, in fact, the landscape has changed, further favoring the standardbreds since then, but at this point, our split was determined, and I think that going back to making it retroactive to January 1st, 2016 is not only fair, but I think it's basically what is best for the Commonwealth and required. And another big issue is there's money sitting in the funds, in the Racehorse Development Fund, that's not being distributed. And that, I think that can be problematic. There was already 2 amendments in the House this year that tried to take, one was trying to take $10 million from that fund and one $4 million. There's only about $15 million so far each year going into that fund. I think it's a problem if there's too much money sitting around. The legislatures look at it, they look at it as a hey, no one's using that money, let's take it. So I think making this retroactive to January 1st is what we all thought was fair and equitable, and I hope the commission feels the same. Thank you.
Yeah, let me emphasize something. As the treasurer, I can maybe, Commissioner Cameron mentioned this, but I want to emphasize something for everybody's benefit, the public and commissioners. So money flows into each of the, there's really different accounts, but the money flows because of the activity in Plainridge into the fund. Disbursements get made to the different groups according to the split, and they have continued to be made since January up until now. The thoroughbreds don't get the money that gets into that would be for thoroughbreds has been more that flows into the fund, because the money that flows out for thoroughbreds is less, and that's the piece that Mr. Goldberg is referring to. Everybody should remember also that there's the purse accounts, the 16% for both thoroughbreds and standardbreds that goes to breeders, and 4% that goes to health and benevolence, health and welfare. Now, throughout this period, the 16 that's in question, the period between January and June, the breeders continued to get money according to the prior split, and that's what you all have seen. Have read some of the letters in favor of one scheme versus another. That is at the crux of our decision here. Because when the horse racing committee made its retroactive decision, I suggest that they may not have taken into account that the mechanics of those payments have already gone out for the breeders. What that does, it puts us in the position that we're here today, which is how do we comply with this recommendation? Could we do it retroactive to January as it was suggested by the committee or recommended by the committee? That would mean that for the breeders, for the thoroughbred breeders, there would be a period that you were talking about that we have to figure out how to adjust.
Yeah. Agreed.
The flip side of that is there will be more money going to the standardbreds because the 75-25 has been happening up until recently.
Right, and the standard bred breeders will tell you that frankly, there's a real need for those horses immediately, and that additional money to standard bred breeders is really important. You know, and I understand that the thoroughbred breeders are, would like to have additional monies to breed, but I think that is something the committee took a look at. Well, whose horses are racing now, kind of a
Right.
thing.
Yep.
So, and I know, General Counsel Blue, what was your thought on, I know that there was a consensus decision that we shouldn't ask for money back, but it would be a slowing down of additional monies?
The idea would be to not make payments until the amount was caught up. And I've talked to finance, we haven't gotten a specific number of months, but we think it's somewhere around 3 or 4 months that they would go without payments, and then payments would resume to get them so they were where they should be for this year under that new split.
Yeah, just a general question. I mean, I appreciate Commissioner Cameron kind of laying out the history and why we ran into this problem. And hopefully, as we go forward, beginning this October, I expect, the committee will kind of conduct the same process, and it will be a consistent
We have intentions
process.
of doing that.
Right.
I believe there's already a meeting scheduled for October.
There is.
Yeah.
I guess my, as I was looking at the information in the packets, even at 55 to 45, you have 55% of the Racehorse Development Fund going to the harness who run over 100 days. You have 45 going to the Thoroughbred Racehorse Development Fund for 6 days of racing. So,
Part of the reason for that, Commissioner, is simulcast monies.
Right.
Even in a racetrack in which harness live racing is conducted, the bulk of the simulcast is with thoroughbred, so there's still money being generated on behalf of thoroughbred racing. So we really did a complete analysis. So it's more than live racing that we looked at to make that split decision.
okay. I think it's important, as we think about where the thoroughbred industry is going to go, that, and I think it's been stated already, that, this is an annual review for somebody who might be out there thinking they want to invest in a thoroughbred track in Massachusetts, that this is not a split fixed in stone. And the committee does a great job will be doing a good job of reviewing this every year as we go forward. I guess my challenge or my hesitation is with the retroactivity. I appreciate the fact that, the sense of the commission is we don't want to go back and ask for money back. It's a way of how do we allow the parties to kind of catch up. But, I'd be more comfortable saying as of this date in this commission meeting that we approve, the split going forward
I think the
this year.
two alternatives would be the date of the decision, which was around July 1st, or January 1st, which would be the retroactive date. Again, the recommendation based on the fairness issue.
And I'm challenged by either one of those options.
Yeah, I share Commissioner Seven's concern for the fairness of people being penalized, even if it's a prospective penalty through a recoupment, through no fault of the thoroughbred breeders. They, in the ordinary course, were provided what up until that time was the authorized split. And I think it's just simply unfair to have them penalized for a failure of timely resolution of this issue by the Racehorse Committee. Not that I'm casting blame on it. There is a good reason that they didn't do it, but it's certainly not the fault of the thoroughbred breeders. So I'd be against any retroactivity. I think I'm against any retroactive application here.
It's funny because I see it the opposite way. It seems to me
I do-
that
I do too.
The people who inadvertently were prejudiced against were the standardbred breeders. I mean, any rational, I think, assessment here is that had it happened in timely fashion, the standardbred breeders split would have taken effect back in January 1st. It was fortuitous, it was a windfall for the thoroughbred breeders, and as you said, there's no good guy, bad guy here, but the failure of the system, of the statutory system, just because of the turnover in personnel, was really prejudicial to the standardbred people. They were the losers here. And the opposing letter we got from the council for the thoroughbred breeders didn't take the argument that this would really be a hardship, or that they couldn't, they lose the cash flow. It took the argument that there was an argument of statutory construction, that we didn't really have the authority to do retroactivity, and I'm gathering General Counsel Blue is advising us that she disagrees with the thoroughbred breeders on that we do have the authority to construe our authority this way. Is that correct?
Our statute and our regulations are silent as to when it would go into account and into effect. And I think, had this happened in the normal course, we actually wouldn't be in front of the commission asking for your approval. We would simply come to you and say, this was the decision of the horse racing committee. It starts with the next racing season, which would be January 1st, and we filed it with the legislature. So, when we did it first in 2014, and the report is in the packet, we didn't come and ask the commission for a date at which to start. The general understanding was it started at the beginning of the next racing season, which is January 1st. So I did look at the case, the one particular case that was cited. We have a little different situation here. I don't think we've created any expectation as to when this would start. I don't think the commission is changing a pre-existing policy. The commission's been very clear that this can be reevaluated at any time, and the first report is very clear to that end. So I think everyone knows that everyone who's a stakeholder in this fund knows that it could be reassessed at any time. We've talked about yearly, but it could be reassessed more than that. So I think you do have the ability to go back. We just want to go back in a way that's fair to everybody.
Well, and the argument from the thoroughbred breeders is, one, that we don't have the express statutory authority, we know that. The second is that you can't apply retroactively where a prior policy existed. You've spoken to that issue, and I agree with that. The third is this argument that a new policy infringes on individual property rights, and it has some citations. I gather you don't agree with that.
I don't think anyone, and this is a larger issue that has come up a couple of times. I don't think any one of the groups has a property right in that fund. The legislature can increase it, decrease it, take it away at any time. The split can be changed at any time, so I don't think there was any particular established property right in the fund.
Right. I mean, you could maybe make an argument if we were trying to take it back, you might be able to make a property right argument, but I agree with you. So if we take our general counsel's judgment that this is within our authority, then it's just a question of weighing the equities. Who's being hurt the most? And it does seem to me that it was the standardbred breeders who lost out here due to no fault of their own. And there's a way to remedy it that is relatively painless to get it back to the split that the committee thought was appropriate.
I agree with that notion. I think there's while the emphasis on the 16% may be relevant as to the breeders, which and again I agree. Remember, there's the 80% that goes to purses that or either sits there, which is really what the committee considered, and considers many factors. You mentioned not just live racing, but also simulcasting, number of farms, and there's a lot of study and a lot of discussion that happened at the racehorse committee, horse racing committee, that tries to factor in, and given that big piece, where the alternative is for the money to just sit there, I think that by following the committee's recommendation of retroactive, we'd be using that money for what it was intended, which is propping up the horse racing industry. In this case, the standardbreds, because they have the mechanism and other things.
And for the record, Commissioner Zuniga attended our meeting, had enough interest that he asked to attend the meeting so he could hear all the arguments firsthand. So
Yeah.
he does have knowledge.
Yeah.
Well, I have no I have no question as to our, authority here. As the chairman said, it's really a discretionary matter. And as vis-à-vis the thoroughbreds and the standard breds, that, and where the equities lie. Once again, there is a financial consequence here for the thoroughbred breeders. Through no fault of their own, they would be penalized. I think this is a situation, in my mind, you look at the standardbreds, right now, they're flush. The thoroughbred industry is on the ropes. I think this is an unnecessary additional burden, and under circumstances where there would be no hardship at all on the standardbreds, that this is a situation where the equities, if not the sympathies, are appropriately exercised in favor of the thoroughbred breeders.
Can I mention something? The breeding program is a long lead, consideration. While it may be the case that comparatively the standardbred is flush with purse monies, and again, they're also required to run a number of days by statute, et cetera. The breeding program, is a long lead, a seed that gets planted, and, you see the fruit, so to speak. Yes. And you see the fruits, really 2 years hence. So by the decision that, that we're contemplating here, we're really, projecting on the state of the industry 2 years from now, or more, depending, and that's important to consider on the heel of your comments.
And as a committee member, I think that the standardbred folks would argue with the fact that they are flush. 25% of that account, and the number of days they've had to race is really, it's made a small difference, surprisingly not a huge difference. I was surprised at how little the purses actually did increase, because don't forget that those monies, the new monies coming in are from the one casino, and it was the 25%. So Mr. Goldberg, you may have more details on that, but I just,
Yeah, the word flush, the standard industry is by no means flush. We're still at the bottom of the tiers of all standardbred racetracks in the Northeast. We're doing much better. Things are looking up. More horses everything that the statute was designed to do is working. More horses are coming in, more horses are being bred. Fields have gone from 6.7 average to up, there's now 9 and 10 horse fields racing at Plainridge. It's getting much better. Our purses are still low. People are in contemplation of what's going on, are hoping that they will increase, and hopefully they're going to increase next year and rest of this year. But they're not flush by any stretch of the imagination. And as far as fairness, starting September, the standardbreds race their sire stakes program. Those are races only for mass-bred horses. You can't enter unless you're a mass-bred 2-year-old or 3-year-old. There's, on the pace and the trot, there's fillies, mares, and colts. There's about 32 races that will be raced in September and October. That money is just from the sire stakes money. 32 races. I don't think, last year the thoroughbreds raced their stakes races at Finger Lakes Racetrack in New York. This is the things that we discussed at our committee discussions at length, so I don't want to go into it.
Yeah.
But as far as fairness and for the breeders, the money is clearly in need right now, today, and as of going back to January, would be the fairest way to go, especially for the breeders. But I think for the whole purse structure, so we can get up out of the basement, if you will.
Further discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll move that we accept the committee, the horse racing committee recommendation to change the split as presented in the recommendation, 55% going to the standardbred industry and 45% to the thoroughbreds, retroactive to January 1st, as the committee recommended.
Second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That would be Commissioner Cameron, Commissioner Crosby, Commissioner Zuniga. What did you do?
I'm voting no.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed.
Commissioner Stebbins and Commissioner McDonald. The motion passes 3-2.
And
Okay.
just for the record, my opposition is not to the split, it's to the retroactive.
Yeah, right,
Same here.
right. Okay, thank you. So we are now, that was the only issue, I believe, in the racing division. We now go to item number 4, the Ombudsman report.
Can we
Ombudsman.
take a
Yeah,
break?
we'll take a quick break. Never miss a chance.
Well, might as well.
Not the regulations of small business. All set? Okay, we are reconvening at about 10:34. Ombudsman Ziemba.
Good morning, Commissioners. I have 4 items this morning. First, for my brief update, we continue to work with MGM Springfield and Wynn Boston Harbor as their construction activities ramp up. Joe Delaney, our construction project oversight manager, and I are actively engaged with our licensees as they are engaged in some of the biggest private construction projects in Massachusetts. On another matter, we have notified all the Community Mitigation Fund applicants regarding the Commission's determinations on their applications and have drafted grant contracts that we'll work on with such applicants. In addition, we continue to monitor progress our licensees have had in getting all of their permitting approvals, notably Wynn Boston Harbor's recent receipt of its Chapter 91 approvals. With that as a backdrop, the next items on the agenda are the quarterly reports for Wynn Boston Harbor and Plainridge Park Casino. First, let me welcome Bob DeSalvio, President, Wynn Mass LLC, Chris Gordon, Wynn Design and Development President, Jackie Crum, Senior Vice President of Wynn and General Counsel, and Jenny Peterson, Project Manager from Wynn Boston Harbor. Bob?
Thank you, John. Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners.
Morning.
And I am very pleased to be able to say for the first time at a public Mass Gaming Commission meeting that Wynn Boston Harbor is now under construction.
All right. Great.
And so we feel really good about that, as you could tell. And so today you're going to hear from, you'll hear from Chris in a minute to give you the full permitting and construction update. And then we thought, and then Jackie and I are going to step back for a second and bring up Jenny and the folks from Suffolk to talk about the diversity program in what I'm going to call an enhanced version of what we normally do for our update. We thought that this is a really good sort of jumping off point we went from being partially real to real. And now there's really very serious efforts going on to make sure that we're as inclusive as possible as part of the project. So we thought it'd be a good idea to update the commission in a little more thorough basis than what we normally do on the quarterly update, where we just typically report numbers, because there's a lot more to the story than the numbers. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris, who's going to talk about permitting construction.
Great, thank you, Bob. Going through the slides, the permitting one, as you may have heard, and you heard a few times this morning already, we do have our Chapter 91 permit. You know that story very well, but that did allow us to go on the complete site instead of just working on part of the site. So that is a major step in the permitting. There's other permits listed here, but the highlighted one, of course, is the big story. The federal permitting, we also are anticipating our Army Corps permit. This doesn't impact what we're working on the site. It impacts the work in the water, but that is well underway, and we expect to get that hopefully in the next month or so, and that'll be a final piece in the federal front. So we're very
What does that permit you to do? What's the relevance?
It's related to the work in the water. We have a lot of work to do around the living shoreline, the bulkhead, the dredging, the navigation of the dredge. So this allows us to proceed with all that. Moving ahead to design, all aspects of the building have reached the GMP level of design, which means we're just about done. They've all been submitted to the city for review. The foundation permit has been approved. That's why we're building it. We actually have the building permit in hand. We're now working with the city on the review of the tower, the podium, the site, and the marine work. So all those applications have been submitted to the city. They have a company, Four Leaf, who has been working with us on the review of those. We've been in a number of discussions with them, and that's all moving along quite well, and we expect to have those building permits before those aspects of the building start. The next one, obviously, the podium and the tower will go next, so we certainly want to get those, and I'll show you in a minute some schedule updates and when we expect to need those.
Chris, what does GNP mean?
Guaranteed maximum price. Suffolk was hired as a construction manager early on, so we'd benefit from their expertise during pre-construction, cost estimating, scheduling, workforce analysis, that sort of stuff. And now that we're under construction, we've yet to put a final price in place. We're headed toward that, probably in October. So the guaranteed maximum price means the drawings are at what we call a GMP level, meaning that they're done enough so they're out. The whole building is out in the market right now for procurement. Those bids will be coming back this summer and fall. Once they're back, we digest them, we approve them, and eventually we'll put that into a complete price for the project.
Chris, we talked about this a little bit. We went through a process with MGM where from the original pricing to their final pricing, when they got real bids in, they had some hugely expansionary costs. And we are constantly hearing about the pressures here, the labor market costs and everything. And you've already raised your ceiling to some extent, but,
Right.
you know, a little bit. So I just wondered whether you have any sort of preview on,
I'll enjoy sleeping better after October.
yeah.
But we have put certain sections of the building out for bid already and have received bids that are consistent with what our budgeting for those
Really?
have been. We've also consistently throughout the process, we've been doing internal as well as external reviews of the budget. So what we're seeing to date is consistent, but as we go forward, there will be some changes, but we hope to keep within what we have.
Yeah, the 2.1 billion we've announced includes current market prices.
Right.
And as Jackie said, we've bid about 275 million so far, and they've all been on budget so far. We've got a couple of big bids that are due soon, including things like concrete, MEP, that sort of stuff. And we're very anxious to see where the prices are. So far, we're doing fine. You're right about the pressure in the market. I don't know if you saw this, but about 3 weeks ago, Massachusetts was ranked the most expensive market in the country right now. And that's not because of any demographics or anything else, it's because the market's so hot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a busy place. So when you put $1 billion out in the market that's the busiest in the country, you know, that's tough. But our estimates have all been set based on the current market. So far, we're in good shape, but we'll certainly be nervous until October.
Yeah.
And if I can add, at the time that MGM happened, the level of design was very different from where the people at Wynn are currently.
That's correct.
Yeah,
I think
the-
that was their first adjustment of their budget,
Right.
whereas we've done that a number of times, and as you know, we started at, what, 1.6?
1.6 or 7, yeah,
And
right.
we're now, you know, $500 million more, so.
And remember, too, the
Gone through that.
2.1 includes a very good contingency.
Right.
So some bids will come in over, some will come in under, but we've got contingency. We've got about 7% contingency, which is the national average is about right. And as was mentioned a moment ago, our design, good or bad, it takes a long time to get through the approval process. So we've had enough time to really refine the design. There's no mysteries in the design at all, which normally helps a lot when the bidders look at the price.
Good, great, thank
We're
you.
very pleased to have a new section to our briefing today, which is actually construction photos. So these are no longer renderings, these are actual photographs. A lot of you have seen the site, but if you look at the first photograph, this is just an example of some of the slurry work. It's a bit dark, so I'll go to the next one, but if you, I'm sorry, that's right, that's as of June. If you go to the next slide, that's as of August. So this is an aerial photo. We have the flight flown with a drone on a fairly regular basis, not just to have pretty pictures, but it allows us to document what's going on. And if you look at this, just to tell you a bit about it, on the far left-hand side coming into the page is the service road. That's the road that goes around the MBTA. It includes most of the major utilities, but it's also our primary service road. So you can just see some construction equipment there. That road is going to open in November, we think. So that will give us a key access point. It starts at the McDonald's on Broadway. McDonald's closed a week ago Sunday. It's now closed. We closed on the property this Monday, and now demolition starts probably next week. So McDonald's is being taken down. They're going to build a new one. Our service road is going to be connected. So you'll see the service road by roughly November will be actually functional, and that'll give us a good access route into the site. If you go to the main part of the site, it is a very busy site. We had about 275 workers on the site yesterday. Next week, we'll probably get above 300, and we hope by the end of the year to be up to 500. So for a big job downtown, that would be by far their peak. For us, it's just a small portion of our workers, but it's a lot of workers. It's primarily work right now on utilities and the foundation. As you know, we're putting the foundation in with a slurry wall technique, which means you put the walls in first. So if you look around the site, and we can go into detail if you want, but you can start to see the perimeter of the building where they're actually trenching down about 100 feet and keying the foundation wall into the bedrock. We're putting in the rebar, the concrete, and then soon we'll start excavating. So, and then to the far right, that's the area we just started work in now that we have the Chapter 91 permit. That's where the piles are going in and some additional utility work. So on the left-hand side of the page, under the actual casino, the piles, which is the foundation, is done. So they're now starting to work on the pile caps and the slab, and now they're down in the convention area on the right. So that work outside the garage is moving quite quickly.
Is that a big excavation on the right where the convention space is?
No, that is dark piles of soil.
Oh, okay.
We were only allowed to pile soil within the Chapter 91 area, not create new excavation. Now we're in there digging like crazy, but when, early on, we were only able to stockpile soil.
All right.
If you go to the next shot, this is a little closer in. One point of interest, on the right-hand side, you'll see the railroad tracks, and you may be able to see on the left of the tracks is a new track. That's the track we're building right now. It is a new railroad spur into the site that we're going to use to remove soil. We've got 500,000 tons of soil to get out, and so about a third of that will leave by rail. So that rail track this photo is a week or so old. The track's now done, and we expect on Monday to start bringing soil out with rail. Most of it goes to Ohio. There's 2 landfills in Ohio where Suffolk has deals to take it to, and they're going to use, it's about 600 rail cars that rotate through, about 26 at a time, but 600 rail cars will rotate through the system, and they're assembling those cars now. So that the soil will be leaving quite quickly by rail, and then The other two-thirds will continue to go by truck over the roads.
Chris, what happens to that rail spur and when?
Goes away. It's a temporary rail spur, so in sometime in the next 12 months, it'll come out. They're still looking at whether or not they can use it for anything else during construction. It's primarily for soils, because that's the big push. But we don't think it'll be used for much else, maybe a few other deliveries, but during construction, that gets removed. And it's not on our property, it's in the rail right-of-way, which they can do. The railroads have the ability to do that for various temporary needs. Across the site, again, I won't go through every piece of equipment, but you can see there's pile drivers, there's slurry rigs, there's cranes, and quite a bit of equipment. The next one is a little bit more of a close-up. You can see the tracks even closer. The next one, we had a very nice event a couple of weeks ago, the day after we got our Chapter 91 permit. I know some of you were able to be there, which we really appreciate. We had a great event, and it was nice because of the formalities, but it was also nice that half of Everett showed up, which was great. And then we had a very large collection of construction workers, and they stopped, they came over, they cheered, they had fun, and it's nice, because everybody's sort of been in pins and needles for a long time, so it was just a nice event. We also did a lot of tours, and we got a lot of nice coverage, which sort of was a good motivator for the team that's been out there working every day. So, very good event. Next shot is you saw Bob and the mayor actually shooting off the air guns to signify the start of construction. Very nice day. As I mentioned, we're at about 275 workers, so we're starting to see all the issues be implemented. The PLA is working fine. We're figuring out where people park. We're getting them back and forth across the street. We're figuring out how to feed them, where the bathrooms are. So the whole labor issue is working out very well. The trades have been great, but there's a lot of logistics. I mean, there's just a lot going on. We're working with local Everett businesses to bring food trucks out. We've got 5 or 6 major businesses that are going to be bringing food trucks in addition to the regular trucks that normally go to construction sites. We've got a few local folks that are going to come out and provide food. So the biggest issue has been parking. We've got enough parking now, but we've had to accelerate some demolition to make sure we had enough parking for them all. Next is a shot with some of the folks that were there, some of the local elected officials, Bob, Jackie, the mayor. A very, very good turnout. We are very pleased to continue to have strong support around everywhere with the elected folks. Another shot, this is the Everett United group. They've been with us from the beginning. A pretty impressive crowd. If you notice in the photo, some of them have their own hard hats, their own shirts. They're ready to go to work. So we're lucky to have Everett United around. This is a shot from the river. If you haven't noticed, it just looks like a busy site. So when people say, is the Win Boston Harbor for real? Are you guys really going to start? Is Steve going to change his mind? I mean, you take a look at these photos, it's pretty obvious. I mean, there's just a huge amount of work going on. Offsite infrastructure, as you know, we have a very big agenda for offsite infrastructure. It is moving quite quickly. We have 2 design teams. We have AECom that's doing everything but Sullivan Square, and we have Howard Stein Hudson doing Sullivan Square. Both teams are at about 25%. One is just after, one's just before, but they're just about 25% design. That's sort of a milestone where you have to review it with the DOT, DCR, all the cities and towns. So we've started all those reviews. We're meeting with all the agencies, and we'll spend most of the winter going through review process to make sure that everybody's comfortable with the designs. And then we'll finish the designs and put them out for bid. And we very much want to start some construction on these roadways next summer, which will be the summer of 17, and then finish it up in the summer of 18. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of, not only is it dollar value, but, you have to closing roads, detouring traffic, all that sort of stuff. It can go slow. So we're going to be spending a lot of time in the next 2 summers getting this in very good shape. The good news is the designs have been very well received. We've had preliminary meetings with just about everyone from all these different agencies, and they're very happy. I mean, it's a good chance to upgrade a lot of these roads with some private sector money. By the way, the one other bullet on that slide, sorry, you notice we're also continuing to participate in the Lower Mystic Regional Working Group. That's the larger, bigger picture Sullivan Square Planning Group. We're at those meetings, we're participating, we're certainly part of it, which is a good thing.
When is the next one? I'm sorry. When is the next meeting?
It's early September.
September.
And I would say the view from our side and others is it's been a functional, positive group. It hasn't just been eyewash. It's actually been meeting and talking and working with.
They've hired great coordinators, and we've really seen progress from one meeting to the next.
Yeah, can you
Sure. Project schedule, there's a lot of material here.
Excuse me, the comments from Boston on Sullivan Square, you said, how were they?
Yeah, we did get comments back on the conceptual design report. They were very constructive, they were not extensive, and we're resolving them all now. So it was no headlines, no surprises.
Good.
we meet with the BTD folks on a fairly regular basis now, and it's become a very good working group.
Great.
On schedule, we've got a bunch of material here, but I'll go through it a little bit quickly, and then we can slow down as you want. But these are snapshots every 6 months during the project to give you an idea how we're going to do this. The first one will be the end of this year. So by the end of this year, if you look across the top, we'll be erecting steel by December. The actual first delivery is the first week of December. So the steel has been awarded, it's going to be manufactured, and then it's going to be delivered. So by December, in both the left-hand area, the convention area, and the right-hand area, the central utility plant, we'll actually be putting up steel this year, which I think visually, that's a great symbol to see the things moving along. In the casino floor area, the middle, we'll be doing mass excavation. We'll be about half done getting the soil out of there. That's our critical path, is getting rid of all that dirt. So we'll be about 50% done by the end of this year, and then we'll be pouring the slab at the B4 level underneath the hotel.
Chris, quick question. On this slide and the next one, you have B4, B3, B2. What are those?
B4 is the bottom of the garage. At ground level, the numbers start going down,
Got it.
and then they go up. So we go 1 up to 27 in the hotel and 1 down to 4 in the garage. So B4 is the lowest level of the garage.
Got it.
So that means under the hotel, which is the first area that gets excavated, we're going to be down to the bottom of the hole by the end of this year and actually pouring a slab,
Okay.
which is good, because getting the hotel tower going is critical path as well.
How deep is that?
It's about 40, the first floor is partially above grade,
Right.
but the bottom of the hole is about, I got to get exact number, but it's roughly 45 feet. Next, by next June, the central utility plant will be weather tight, which is great, because that has to be online early, so we can climate control the building. Far left, the structure will be complete, and we'll be starting to put the facade on the convention area. Hotel structure will be up to the second floor, and then we'll be still working in the garage underneath the casino. So by the end of next year, we'll actually be doing finishes in the convention area. So that's a big milestone. And we'll be roughing in, all the rough-ins will be complete in the central utility plant, starting finishes. The facade will almost be done on the casino, and the structure, so we'll be at the 27th floor, the top floor of the hotel by the end of next year. So that'll be another big milestone. Middle of 18, similar, we'll be punching out both the convention and the cup, and the finishes will be underway in the podium and in the tower. And by the end of 18, it's going to look done. It won't be done, but it'll look like it's done, because most everything will be in place. But then there's a lot of final finishes, a lot of commissioning, a lot of testing to get it ready. And then if you look at the 34-month schedule we announced from the day we got a Chapter 91 permit, that puts you in the first week of June of 2019. So we're riding very hard to get that done. Suffolk has signed up for that. Everyone else has signed up for that. So we're currently forecasting June of 19, we'd be not just finished with construction, but actually be open.
When does Popeye come in?
At the very end.
Before June.
After that, there's a series of bar charts, which I wasn't going to go through, but they reflect what we just talked about. But they're here for the record if you want. They're much more detailed schedules. That was sort of the end of the construction piece. Before we go to the workforce and diversity, any specific questions on the development side?
Any surprises, Chris? I mean, anything that, it sounds like, I'm sure there are surprises, but it sounds like everything is going well, and this is a really interesting presentation to show us how it's coming along. But is there anything you haven't
Well,
anticipated?
I'm
that-
always very hesitant to be too
Yeah.
comfortable or optimistic, because construction doesn't work that way. Right now, there's nothing on the horizon that we are, today is a problem. But, as we said earlier, we're always worried about bid prices. There's no question. So we've got to watch that very, very carefully. The workforce, we're always making sure we have enough workers out there. We're spending an enormous amount of time on safety. When you get that many workers in that small of a place, it's a very tight site. So, for example, next week, in 2 weeks, we have a very large emergency drill. We're going to bring in fire, police. We've been getting ready for it for a month now, but we're going to pretend there's been a major disaster. We're going to work on that with various communities, various police and fire departments. So that we worry about every day, but no. So I would say, if you ask me what is the biggest worry I have, is going to be making sure we maintain the budget. I think schedule will be in good shape, because it's actually moving along quite well. The design, we think, is fantastic. The permitting is in good shape. We just want to get through the complete bidding of the project.
All right. Good. Thank you.
So we'll switch to diversity.
Jenny?
Thank you.
Commissioners, it's great to be here.
Welcome back.
Welcome.
Welcome.
So I think many of you know that every month we give a pretty detailed update on where we are with the numbers and what's been going on with outreach to the Access and Opportunity Committee. And really want to commend Jill Griffin and the great work she's done in putting together the committee and running the monthly meetings. They really help us stay on track. They give us helpful suggestions and really just support our efforts to ensure we have a diverse and inclusive workforce and business opportunities. Also wanted to introduce the folks from Suffolk that are working with us on diversity day in, day out. We have Brian McPherson, Director of Diversity for Suffolk, and Shelley Webster, who is the dedicated compliance officer for the Wynn Boston Harbor project.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So they'll be speaking on a lot of the points here today. All right. So first up, we really have, there's two areas. There's workforce and our contracts and business opportunities. So starting with what we're doing to build a diverse and local workforce. We've done a lot of work with the trades, the community, and one of the first things we knew we needed to do was to build a great relationship with the trades. So I'll let Shelley talk a little bit about the meetings that we had before we got started. This is several months ago to meet with the trades.
Actually, Brian's going to start off.
I'm going to
for
jump
us.
in.
Thanks.
Early on, before we even got started on set, we met with all the unions, one-on-one. We met with each business agent and their training director to have an open discussion about the workforce that was going to be provided on the project, specifically talk about diversity and how the projects were going to be, the manpower on the projects. And it was a great, open, honest discussion. It was welcomed, and it went very, very well. So we met with all the trades. We follow up every quarter with, and I attend the building trades training directors meeting, so we talk how they're recruiting and how they're getting more of a diverse workforce on the jobs. So it's been a great discussion with them, and they've been a great part of the Wynn project and getting us off to the right start.
You're generalizing, you're saying all 22 of them have been responsive and good?
Well, we haven't been involved with the painters yet, but,
Okay.
but yes, we have been, they all met with us, and there were, we either met or had a very good conversation. Some of them we didn't need to meet with. I think maybe one or two of them we did
Yes,
not.
there are a couple that we didn't meet with, but all have committed because the project is 3 years in the making. So we said that we would meet with trades again when their trade is closer to coming on the project.
Because we had sort of heard a lot of good things about certain of the trades, like obviously like the carpenters in particular were notable, but I thought that some were kind of unresponsive, and you were having a hard time getting in touch with some of them.
I think there were a couple that we
There-
had
yeah.
a bit of back and forth.
Right, there were actually 3 that we did not meet with, one being the tunnel workers, and the second was the iron workers, but we since met with that trade. And I think the third was maybe perhaps the Boilermakers, and we're expecting to circle back around with them.
Okay.
But in general, very positive meetings. And one thing I was surprised to hear is that in almost all of the meetings we had, the trade said that this was the first time they have ever been approached to talk about this topic before construction starts. And I think usually what happens is they get into it, there's a shortfall with female, minority, veteran, or local workers, and then it's, suddenly a corrective action meeting. So they really appreciated the proactive approach and to have a chance to talk with Suffolk and Wynn before even getting started about how we were going to reach these goals together.
Great.
Along those lines, Jenny, one of the things that we've heard from Director Griffin, and I know of the conversations at the Access and Opportunity Committee, is that a project like this is a great opportunity to look at the apprenticeship programs in order to build both a pipeline and diversity. Will you get into that in your
We will,
remarks? Or,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So next up, we really wanted to find ways to, again, to connect those folks that are seeking careers with opportunities in the building trades. one of the first things we noticed is that there are not as many women in the trades as we need to be on our job, and as many of the other construction projects in the Boston area also have goals for women, minorities, and veterans. And there was certainly, we saw a little bit of a shortfall or a struggle to get enough women. So one of the efforts we've undertaken is we founded a group called the Massachusetts Girls in Trades, which brings together representatives from career and technical education schools or the vocational schools, the Department of Labor, the building trades, general contractors, and developers. And we're working to ensure that young women who are enrolled in vocational school programs doing carpentry, electrical, plumbing, any trade-related program have a clear path to get into the trades. We put on an event with the Girls in Trades Committee last March that drew, I think, over 400 young women from across the state, 50 educators, and that was really a terrific event. All of the trades were there, and that was a chance for these young women to connect with the training directors and apprenticeship programs and work on taking that next step and planning their career after high school. We were excited by the coverage.
I didn't realize, yeah, it was a great event. The coverage was terrific. I didn't realize you were co-founders of that. I thought
Yes.
the organization had pre-existed. Who were the other founders?
It was Wynn and Minuteman High School. So we were the two organizations that we took a tour at Minuteman, I think in December, and we saw a lot of young women working in these classes, and we asked the administrators there what relationship they had with the trades, and the answer was not much of a relationship. And so we brought the group together, and in a pretty short amount of time got this event put together and a lot of other action items for efforts moving forward.
Does the organization have legs? I mean, is this going to continue to operate?
Yes.
Does it have an organizational structure of some sort and
Yep,
officers and?
we had our annual planning meeting a few weeks ago, and there's the board has been defined. There are subgroups that work on specific sort of action items for the group. We're planning on several follow-up events this year, and then are also putting in place a mentorship program where high school girls can mentor middle school girls thinking about what program they want to study for high school, and then similarly building relationships between women who are working in the trades and students who are making career decisions.
That's great. I didn't realize that. Is Liz involved?
Yes.
Is she on the steering
Yes,
committee or something?
Liz is on the board.
Yeah.
Jill Hauser from the Department of Labor, John Healy. It's a lot of folks from the trades, Department of Labor, CTE programs, Skanska, who's one of the other general contractors. Suffolk is on the board. So it's really a terrific group with representatives from all of the stakeholders that we think are necessary to get this work done.
That's great.
The mentor piece is so important, right? They have to feel welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was one exciting initiative that was launched last year. Another group we've been working very closely with is the One-Stop Career Centers. So again, these are places where hundreds of job seekers pass through every week. And we reached out to the 4 local one-stop career centers that cover Everett and the surrounding areas, and sort of heard a similar story to what we heard at the CTE programs, was that they definitely had clients who were interested in pursuing careers in the trades but didn't have the information they needed or the relationships with the trades they needed to help people get into an apprenticeship program and get into a construction career. So we, again, sort of rallied the troops, got together with the trades and contractors. We hosted a training for each of the 4 one-stop career centers in our host and surrounding communities. And since then the training was regarding, how do the building trades work? How do you navigate this process when there's 17 different, individual trades and application processes? So we trained the staff at those career centers and have since been keeping up with them to ensure they have the information and know where to send their clients who may be interested in these careers. We're sending out monthly building trades application opportunities notifications. So these are sent to over 1,000 job seekers. These are folks that have come to our job fairs or signed up through our website, and community partners, so that people can know, okay, what's coming up in September? Which trade can I apply for? Now we'll have Shelley and Brian talk about the walk-on application process.
Thank you, Jenny. We actually have a very extensive walk-on process that's very unique to other projects here in Massachusetts. There are two ways that applicants in the building trades can sign up and express their interest in our project, one via online, and the second, we have mailboxes at the site, two mailboxes. One contains blank applications where a person can take the application, go and fill it out at home, and then come back, put it in a locked box, and that's collected every week. From there, we pull the applications from either online or from the box, and we record them on a union tracking sheet for union job seekers and another one for non-union job seekers, because they're both treated differently. But with both, we acknowledge that we received their application, and these are the next steps. For the union applicants, we circulate on a weekly basis to our subcontractors, to union officials, the business agents, and to we ask that our subcontractors even circulate the list to their subcontractors, that these union job seekers are looking to work on our project, and please do everything within your power to get them to work, and especially with a focus on the Everett residents and surrounding communities. With regard to the non-union workers, we put them into our database so that they will receive the monthly building trade apprentice enrollment that Jenny was just talking about. So we make sure we keep them informed as to what's going on, which unions are accepting apprentices or apprentice applications. There is on our site, again, unique to other sites, our phone number is posted. They can meet with myself, the compliance officer. There are office hours posted where they can meet with me. There are designated times twice a week.
Is ethnicity part of the, what a applicant can check in these applications?
I'm sorry?
Can they identify their ethnicity in these applications that you described?
Yes, they can. The application is pretty extensive, but very comprehensive at the same time. And yes, it does spell out if your ethnicity, gender, where you
Residency.
reside, and, at the same time, we do state that, this is for purposes of ensuring diversity on the project, but you don't have to answer it. You're not obligated to answer it. And if someone is uncomfortable, again, they can contact me. My phone number is posted on the site at those application stations so that they can contact me and we can talk directly.
Very good.
So if you drive by the site, you'll see a sign. It's front and center right as you pull in. It's got the phone number to call if you need help. So Shelley and some other folks just, are there to provide support in directing people where they need to go, because it is a complex process to apply for the trades, and it takes a lot of time, and there's different processes and places you need to go depending on the trade you're interested in.
Jenny and Shelley, a lot is made at our Access and Opportunity Committee meetings, the membership, local stakeholders. How much are you seeing them drive people to get into this process?
Well, I can't say that I have, because we're located at a different site. Our office is located at a different site.
Right.
But with regard to the process of apprentice enrollment, those folks, the community advocates, and, as Jenny said, our community partners, they receive a notice of the apprenticeship programs as well, so that if they do have workers who are seeking employment or interest, they're given the link to apply, my phone number, and again, which unions are accepting applications within, that month.
We have seen a handful of referrals, so I'd say probably about 20 folks over the last few months have come, the career centers or community groups have sent us specific names of people that they say, this person has experience or they're interested, can you help them? And we've, followed up, connected them with the trades, in many cases made personal referrals if it looked like they were someone who had an extensive enough background that they could be accepted as a journey level worker to the trades.
What about somebody who's already on the trades, let's say, who's already a union member?
Someone who's already a union member, so
What is-
those folks will be, we want to be careful to not play the role of the business agents, which is, the unions help to place their workers on jobs. So Brian and Shelley will connect them with the business agents, but those names are also circulated to our on-site subcontractors. And it has, their name, the fact that they're a union member, which trade they're in, and where they reside. So that any of the subs who are looking for workers have those names in front of them.
Yeah, we don't have a problem making one-on-one calls with the business agents. We've gotten referrals from, elected officials, people saying, I have a resident in my district that is interested in working on the job. So there's been a handful of those we'll handle one-on-one, and, Shelley and I are working full-time at handling those conversations.
One other big thing we've got coming up, we had some job fairs planned for last spring, and those were put on hold for permitting reasons. Those are now being scheduled, and we should have some information in the next day or two on exact dates and times. But in September, we'll be hosting 7 job fairs, one in each of our host and surrounding communities, and we're collaborating very closely with the building trades on that. So we'll have a lot of the training directors there to meet with folks from the community who are interested in getting connected with the apprenticeship programs. Brian, did you want to say a few words about our work with Building Pathways and Youth Build?
Absolutely. Suffolk is very proud to serve on the boards of both Building Pathways, Youth Build, and Operation Exit, and they all are pre-apprenticeship programs. We would talk a lot about how do we feed these young people, or people in general, into the trades, and these pre-apprenticeship programs are set up to guide them, to make sure they're doing the small things. They're showing up on time. They can pass a drug test and all the things that we want an individual to work safely on our project. So we have already met with Building Pathways several times. We're looking at partnering with them on this project to get a cohort of young people. I think we said we're going to set up a goal of maybe 10 people over the course of the 3-year period that have gone through the course and they're actually working on our project. Building Pathways has already done interviews in Everett, seeking Everett residents to go through their 10-week program where and Building Pathways was set up by Marty Walsh, Mayor Walsh, if you're not familiar with it, where it's connected directly with the building trades, and these graduates go straight into the trade. So once they finish their 10-week program, they still have to go through the interview process, but they're automatically into the trades, and we work with them to place them on our projects. And Operation Exit is another pre-apprenticeship program for those at-risk individuals that are in or related to gang situations, and we try to give them a way out of that situation and bring them into a pre-apprenticeship program, and we've had great success at placing those students as well. So we're very proud of these organizations and working with them and finding ways to create opportunities for residents, minorities, females, and veterans on our projects.
Yeah, and Building Pathways has been terrific to work with. They are a Boston-based organization, and until probably 9 months ago had never done information sessions or targeted outreach outside of Boston. And they worked with us and have now done several information sessions in Everett, focused on Everett residents. So we've been very happy with that, and it's been great to work with them. Moving on to talking about some of the business opportunities. I think first and foremost, when you look at a project of this scale, one important element of ensuring that local businesses and diverse-owned businesses can have a chance to be a part of it is breaking something of this scale down into smaller pieces so that a smaller business can actually bid on it and succeed. One of the first steps we took, and this was several years ago in the construction planning process, was to put together, break down the project into over 150 bid packages that would facilitate access to the project by smaller scale contractors. And then the diversity goals themselves also help with access to the project, because some of the larger scale subcontractors that are awarded work in turn go out and they find subcontractors and subconsultants that they can bring on and can work with them and take a smaller piece of the project that might be manageable, but also a huge opportunity for some of these smaller businesses. Last year, we've hosted a lot of networking events, but one that I'll highlight is last June. We brought together a small group of minority women and veteran-owned businesses. We had, I think, 4 different bid packages and consulting areas that we were looking at, including remediation. We had a group of about 25 or 30 businesses that came. One of those businesses was Charter Construction, a minority-owned business based in Boston. We had never met them before, and they were the business that ended up being awarded the work for remediation, which was our first major sort of on-site work. This past February, similarly, we hosted the Trades Partnership event where we introduced the project and had the full Suffolk estimating team there. So estimators from every single division of Suffolk were there to speak with local minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses. I think we had over 400 businesses attend that, and it was...
Yeah, we had 400 businesses, probably 600 people that were in the room. It was, we held it during the February break week at the Everett High School. So if you've ever been there, it's a pretty big auditorium, well-attended. We had Suffolk estimators and the project management staff were there, and we set up about 12 separate tables, and each table had a specific division. So table 3 was the concrete division, and if you were a concrete contractor, you could go and speak directly to the concrete estimator and the project manager that were going to be managing that job. So you got direct information on bidding opportunities and scopes of work. So very, very successful. Through that event, we generated a list of all the contractors and the contacts from that event, and we were able to sort out a master list, which we still use today, and we still edit and revise every day, of all the minority, veteran-owned, women-owned, and local businesses that attended. So, and I want to emphasize again, this event was for all businesses. Any and every business that wanted to work on this project was required to attend.
So we had, great turnout from the diverse business community, the local business community, and then also just a lot of the subs that would typically bid on a Suffolk job, and this is a chance for them to connect up with diverse businesses that they have in turn partnered up with on our project. One other effort we've had going on is outreach to the veteran-owned business community. This, as you know, is a new goal area for a lot of state projects, and there was a, I guess, less robust pool of existing certified veteran-owned businesses. So and we feel like they're out there. There are, veterans that are running great businesses on design and construction. They just haven't been certified. We're really grateful for the streamlined process that the Gaming Commission has put in place. So we've heard that the national veteran-owned business certification process is quite lengthy. So we've done a lot of work to notify local businesses of the Gaming Commission's veteran certifying process and make sure they know that we want them on our job and this can be a competitive advantage for them. We're sending out every other week a business opportunities update that again, to many of these same community partners and to the list of folks who attended our event back in February and others who've expressed interest in working with us since then. That kind of outlines, here are the upcoming bid packages, and also lets people know who has recently been awarded work on the project. So if you're a smaller scale business that provides supplies or services to subcontractors, you can see who has just gotten work on the job and might be looking for that local or diverse-owned partner. We mentioned earlier about the local food vendors. So we saw we're going to have lots of hungry construction workers on the site, and we saw an opportunity to reach out to a lot of the local food businesses in our host and surrounding communities. So similarly to how we've done for other, bids, we kind of had an outreach event and invited a lot of the local food vendors to come in and hear about the project. We had them submit proposals for what they would like to do, and we ended up selecting 4 vendors. It's Square Deli, which is a local Everett business, Morning Salute, which is a veteran-owned business, and Stockpot of Malden, and Commonwealth Kitchen, which is a group out of Roxbury that has a lot of different food trucks that work with it. So these are food trucks that will be on the site, and it'll be great for the workers because they'll have a greater variety of food to choose from than just the normal canteen that pull up on construction site, and it's a great chance for these local businesses to access. I think at a peak we'll have 1,600 or 1,700 construction workers on site. That will be great business for them.
Great.
Also want to have Brian talk about the Suffolk Trade Partnership Series.
So the Trades Partnership Series is a series of classes. It's a training class specifically for minority, woman-owned, and veteran-owned businesses. This is Suffolk's 5th year of producing these classes and holding these classes. We do it every fall, and it's just a great way of getting to know more businesses and increasing diversity on our projects. But it also increases competition as well. These are contractors that are getting prime contracts on our job, as well as the 2nd and 3rd tier opportunities as well. But we run this class from September through October. It's an 8-week class where we have all of our top executives teach them everything from estimating, procurement, the project management life cycle. We teach them how to schedule, and we kind of open up our playbook, and we don't, if there's an electrician there, we don't teach them how to do electrical work. We teach them how we want things done and how we like to see things performed on our project. So we're very proud to be in our 5th year, and we look forward to having, I think, 1 or 2 Everett contractors that have signed up for this year's class.
So this class is open to anybody, any business, Brian?
We just completed our application period,
Uh-huh.
and we just, my internal board, we just selected the applicants this week. So yes to the question that if you've been in business for 2 years and you're certified by the state as a minority, woman-owned, veteran-owned, or a disadvantaged business, then yes, you can apply for the class, and then we go through a selection process, and we select about 15 contractors to.
And it's usually construction-related or suppliers and contractors.
Yeah, as long as you can provide us a service to the job. We're not interested in people that are selling us calendars.
Yes,
So,
no,
but as long- yeah,
understood. No, but,
Exactly.
Great.
How many applicants did you get?
We got 34 applicants this year, and we're probably going to select about 12 this year.
How long does the program go? What does it consist of? How many contact hours?
There are, every Thursday night, starting September the 8th, we go from 6 PM to 8 PM. If you guys, if you're not doing anything September the 8th, it's our opening night, and it's designed to introduce the class, but you're more than welcome to join us at Suffolk's office, 65 Allerton Street at 6 PM. We'll be networking, there'll be plenty of food. And we introduce everyone to Suffolk at that class, and we have elected officials and people that come out and meet the students that night. And I have a lot of top executives from Suffolk that'll be there, the instructors will be there. And so the second, and again, it's every Thursday night. The second class we do estimating. I have my vice president of estimating comes down. We walk them through the estimating, the pre-construction. We also walk them through risk management and safety. So our top directors are teaching them how to fill out our pre-qualification, because that could be cumbersome for some contractors, especially smaller contractors, how to get pre-qualified with us. So we walk them through step by step how to get that application done. The third class, we talk about the project management life cycle, and we take them through from cradle to grave, how to work on a Suffolk job. and all the documents and, from getting a requisition approved, to make to everything you need to complete that project life cycle. Then we get into a little bit more detail. The following class is our director of scheduling, and he comes in and we talk about our lean principles and how, that schedule that Bob just went over, how we can make that even tighter, and how we are very strict about our schedule and the things we look to make that a success. The last two classes are strictly outside vendors. I bring in banks and insurance companies to teach them how to build access to capital. And I have one class where I teach them how to get certified with other agencies as well, so they can look for opportunities, whether it's with the city of Boston or whether it's the Gaming Commission, if they want to, figure out how to get certified with the Gaming Commission and look for other opportunities outside of Suffolk. So we teach them how to build up that skill set as well. In that very same class, because the class, I didn't say this earlier, but the class is open to both union and non-union contractors. So I invite the building trades in, and they do a great job of talking about the union process for those non-union companies that want to become affiliated with the unions and ultimately end up on our project. So we try to cover all the bases. Again, it's an open playbook to these contractors. At the end, when they graduate, we assign a mentor. And so they get a top executive at Suffolk Construction that can hold their hand through, from all of the things that go on from beginning to end on a project. They're not just picking up the phone calling me all the time. No, they're calling one of our top executives to really get that inside track, whether it's on a project that they're trying to get or a project that they're currently working on.
It's great. It sounds really good.
Program, yeah.
And finally, we'll talk a little bit about how we keep track of all of this, how we enforce it, and how we keep the team encouraged and motivated. So, as you know, there's the monthly Access and Opportunity meeting with the Gaming Commission. That is great for keeping us accountable and keeping us on track, and for generating great ideas. We also have weekly internal diversity meetings with the small team that's focused directly on diversity. We discuss diversity at our weekly project team meeting with the site superintendents, the full construction project management staff, our executive team, and the project architect. And we bring up any challenges that we're having, and also celebrate some of the successes. And the key to that is that, diversity and ensuring inclusion of local folks on the project doesn't happen if it's just 2 or 3 people working on it. It's really the responsibility of every single team member to make sure that this works. So all of the project managers that are out there on the site every day are working on this and making sure that it happens. A couple of things we've instituted at the site, we've got an FC background turnstile system. It's a safety system on site where every worker who sets foot onto the project goes through a turnstile so that we know they're there. We know that they've left. In case of an emergency, we can check in on everybody. But we have another benefit to the FC background system is sort of real-time tracking, so we can check in and see if a contractor is on site, if they have the workers that they said they would have, and that they laid out in their plan before coming on the site. And then we also have the LCP tracker, which is our certified payroll reporting system. So that's how we generate the reports that we show to the commission every week and that we use, or every month, and that we use for our weekly internal reporting. And Shelley, do you want to talk about the pre-construction
Sure.
meetings?
Well, we talk about diversity all the time and the commitment from the top down, that being Mass Gaming, Wynn, and Suffolk. And we do not miss the opportunity to express that to our subcontractors. So in our bid documents, diversity and what the requirements are spelled out. Spelled out in the bid documents, and made part of the subcontract. In addition to that, we have a list of, when we send out the bid documents, we're thinking of ways that we can involve and recommend a list of the subcontractors, minorities, veterans, local businesses, women, to our subcontractors that may express that they're having a difficult time locating these businesses. So we created a list that started actually from the February event that was mentioned earlier for the trade partners, that was attended by over 400 folks. We did vet that list, and we put it out as part of our bid documents that are going out and being circulated now. I'm participating as a compliance officer in the de-scoping meetings, just introducing at a very high level what the diversity requirements are, trying to get a feel for who their point person would be so that we can schedule a pre-construction compliance meeting. At the pre-construction compliance meeting, it's really drilled down. Bring your workforce plan to the meeting so that I can understand what the diversity composition is, as well as the duration of your work, who your minority MW, VBE, and local business participation or your subcontractors and suppliers are. Because at that time, if we determine that they're coming in lower than where they should be, there's a conversation around that, and there has to be a strategy on how can we help you to get those numbers up. So that's the pre-construction meeting that I have with all subcontractors, including lower tier subs, our subs. I'm even meeting with them as well, because we want to make sure that diversity is universal and the responsibility of all on the project.
So a lot of upfront planning and preparation to make this happen. Finally, I think we spend a lot of time, tracking and working with folks when, they struggle to meet the goals, but we also wanted to really celebrate our contractors that are doing a great job. So we're working right now to put in place a quarterly recognition and award program so that the subs that come on site and really do a stellar job with their workforce or with the subcontractors that they're engaging are recognized and celebrated, and so we should have more to report on that in the next couple of months. We've run pretty long here, giving you an in-depth look. Happy to answer any questions. In terms of the numbers for the last quarter, you can look through these. They're all reported here. We won't go through them right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent report. It sounds like the team, Wynn and Suffolk, are letting others know that you're really serious about this. And I know that's leadership, and the speed of the leader sometimes does shape behavior. So that was impressive. Thanks.
It's very, very impressive and comprehensive. I did want to just ask one question. It may go without saying, but you really have a lot of aspects here, a lot of very interesting programs for a number of purposes. Will there be an opportunity to look at the successes as you go along? Certainly not at the end, as to what programs may have been really good planters of seeds, the way whether it's the building pathways, or whether you obtained more success, let's say, comparatively with your partnerships like the one in Minuteman. Will you be tracking those success
Yes,
and
definitely.
those metrics?
I think we'll certainly be keeping track of successes and how we can actually get people onto the site. And we've highlighted a few of the successes that we've already had, including the one with bringing charter and a local MBE onto our job for remediation work. But we will keep track of those successes and report on them.
Great.
Will you be able to track the people how many people have actually gotten into the training programs?
I think we'll do our best to keep to track that. We've got a lot going on, and we certainly, we're keeping very good track of folks that are applying for us, and we hear sort of qualitative stories. There's actually been several people who came to a job fair we put on with the trades last May, and have now come to the site and said, hey, I took the time, I went through the application process, I was accepted to the apprenticeship program, and now I'm looking for work. So that's been exciting to see, but it is a long lead time. So we'll do our best to track that, but there's a lot of moving pieces and a long lead time.
Yeah.
I think even anecdotally, having one or two or three of those success stories is certainly worth the effort.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no question about it, but it would be nice to know at the end of this process in 3 years that you actually move the needle on the numbers of people, particularly in this case, women, which has been so difficult, but to actually move the needle on the people, the number of people who've actually been in these programs would be really powerful. And it's, as we've discussed, it's a needle that hasn't moved much for a long, long time. And part of the Access and Opportunity Committee effort was because that we thought what might be a mechanism, coupled with the commitment you guys are making to actually make a difference in terms of the hard count, the percentages. So it'd be great to know if we can.
Absolutely, and I think with all the systems we have in place and all the data we're getting in, that is definitely something that we could be able to track over the life of the project.
Yeah, great.
Even with regard to our collaboration with the unions and our conversations with them, again, they said that this is unprecedented, that they've never been invited to the table to discuss projects and requirements and their involvement before the project started. So I think that after, and we talked a lot about how they enroll the apprentices into their programs and how they inspire women to apply. So I think that after this project is over, there would be further collaboration between us and the respective unions to see what the successes were.
That's great. I've said this before, Bob, but Jenny represents your company very well. And then pass the word up the chain of command. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Terrific. Yeah, she's so poised and capable.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, she's great.
Just in closing, and I know we used a nice big chunk of time for that last program. In your packet, I'm not going to go through it. There's 5 pages of different community meetings and groups that have been part of the process. I know you're always interested in that, so I'm not going to go through and read them, but they're there for you to review. It's a very extensive list. We sort of share it around. Jackie does some, Chris does some, Jenny, John Taco, and so we're all trying to remain active and get to as many different meetings as we can. And on one final note, I'm sure you've heard about this, but it's a real exciting time for Wynn Resorts. On Monday, we are opening up Wynn Palace in Cotai. And it's the largest project that Mr. Wynn has ever undertook. About $4.1 billion, I think, was the final tally. It is an amazing project. I saw some slides and videos. Chris and I are leaving tonight to head out there. We think that's important for this project because we have meetings lined up that Chris put together with the construction design team to find out all what happened out there, the good stories, maybe a few areas where the improvements could be made, but we want to go and soak up all the knowledge and kind of understand what that project's about, get a good look at the project, also look at the way that they do the openings. Mr. Wynn has a very particular style about how properties open and that last few weeks before opening. So this will be some great knowledge that I think Chris and I can get and bring that back to the job site here. So it's a real exciting time for Wynn Resorts.
Yeah, that's great.
And with that, we're actually done, and we'll take any other further questions.
Yeah, very exciting. I've been reading the financial news on the 3 public companies that we follow, our licensees, and a lot of great expectation on the Wynn Palace opening.
Sorry, you've only got 100 gaming tables.
Yeah, well, we were able
It's a
to,
transfer
there's
from-
some misnomer about that,
Yeah.
in that we shifted, we were able to shift tables from one property to the other, so they wound up,
Oh.
with a good amount. I think it's 350 and
Oh, really?
270, 350 at Palace, 270 at Wynn and Encore on the peninsula. So we, and our company, as you know, and you heard this in Mr. Wynn's comments, it's not about quantity for us, it's about the quality of the guest experience. So we've already come to the conclusion, we'll never be the operator that has the most slots, the most tables, but as you know, we've always been highly productive with the amount of equipment that we have or we're assigned. And we usually, on all the metrics, perform better than any gaming company out there. So we're fine. Mr. Wynn's happy with where we are. I talked to him this week. He said the product is amazing. We can't wait to get there. We think it's going to be highly successful for our company.
The pictures are impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, if you've got videos, or come back with videos and pictures, decks.
We'd be happy to share with you.
Yeah, we'd love to see them.
Great.
Thank you, they're great. Jackie, are you staying, are you on leaving? We've got this licensing conversation coming up.
Yes,
Are you gonna be around?
I'll stay.
Okay,
Yes.
Great,
Okay.
okay.
Thank you.
Great,
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Sorry,
Thank you
John,
very
we
much.
chewed up so much time.
No, it's time well spent, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Appreciate the extra time.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to ask your permission to reverse the order of my next two topics. And I'm sorry to the Plain Ridge Park folks, but we've had a couple folks here from the Caring Health Center that have traveled from Springfield. They want to hear what we have to say, and at the end of our discussion regarding the Springfield mitigation grant, perhaps they would want to comment, but they'd first would at least like to hear what we have to say. But in respect to their travels today, I thought we'd just reverse the order.
Sure.
So, Commissioners, during the last item on my agenda is the Springfield Community Mitigation Grant application. During the August 1st Gaming Commission meeting, the commission reviewed Springfield's 2016 Community Mitigation Fund Specific Impact Grant application. The commission unanimously agreed that Springfield's application describes significant parking issues in the area immediately adjoining the MGM Springfield project site that need to be addressed. In discussing the short and longer-term parking issues, the commission instructed commission staff to reach out to the City of Springfield, the Springfield Parking Authority, and MGM Springfield in order to determine how the parties could collectively address current and potential construction related parking issues. This collective effort is consistent with the Commission's 2016 Community Mitigation Fund guidelines relative to funding for non-governmental entities, and as you are aware, is consistent with the approach that MGM Springfield, the city, and the Commission have taken to resolve issues throughout the history of this project. As part of the effort to address such parking issues, the Commission decided that it would authorize up to $150,000 for a pilot valet parking program, provided that Commission staff are able to determine that the pilot program is the best available method of serving the public purpose of addressing parking-related concerns, including concerns that have been raised by Caring Health Center. Staff was also instructed that a further Commission approval would be necessary in the event that any recommended parking solution exceeds $150,000. Since that time, a couple of weeks ago, the Commission staff has worked diligently with representatives from the City Parking Authority, and MGM to determine what is the best available method to address the parking needs in that area. As a result of those conversations, it was determined that we would pursue the option of a shuttle service that would serve the Main Street area between Union and State Street in Springfield. The group tasked the Commission staff and the City Parking Authority to reach out to the Pioneer Valley Transit Authority to determine if it could help provide a shuttle that would connect up this area to parking at a facility away from Main Street. The group at that time noted that PVTA has very significant expertise and capacity regarding accessibility issues that could provide a very significant benefit to a potential shuttle. In addition, because the PVTA is a public agency, the PVTA could provide assistance to this area of Springfield much more quickly, given the otherwise need to procure private services. I want to thank Mary McInnes, the Executive Director of the Pioneer Valley Transit Authority, and can't say enough how much I appreciate all of her efforts in this period. Mary's immediate response to our question was that she and the PVTA would do whatever they could do to help Springfield. I thank everyone in the group for working together, especially those from the city, and for trying to come up with good ideas to address the parking issues. With that as a backdrop, the Community Mitigation Fund Review Team is recommending that the Commission provide additional authority for the Springfield grant to potentially be used for this shuttle service. As I noted earlier, the commission already has previously authorized the valet service in the area. In order to move forward with the shuttle, assuming that the city and the group determines to move forward with this option, additional authorization from the commission is needed. This shuttle service would pick up people at a lot outside of the Main Street area and drop them off on Main Street between Union and State. The shuttle would then take these same people back to their cars at the lots. The intent would be that the route would run approximately about 10 minutes. The current planned location of the lot is at a Springfield Parking Authority lot on Worthington, between Worthington and Winter Streets in Springfield. The plan is that the parking would be free or close to free as possible for those riders. I note that there's significant work on details and necessary approvals for this to become the final determination. I especially want to thank Thomas Moore from the Springfield Parking Authority for all of his efforts to help and for his can-do attitude. In this regard, Commissioners, included in your packet is a draft grant contract for the first 90 days of this parking service in Springfield. We anticipate that we will continue to evaluate how the service will work to address parking needs during that time and will make adjustments. The value of the draft in your packet reflects 1/4 of the $150,000 previously authorized. The new potential value of the service would be $184,000, and so thus we're asking for 1/4 of that should we be able to move forward with the shuttle option. But again, we want to talk to Caring Health and a number of other parties in the area to determine the final best option.
John, first of all, good work in the work of Joe and Mary also. And couldn't agree more that Mary McGinnis is a rock star. A couple of quick notes. First of all, in the contract, top of page 6, you referenced Pioneer Valley Planning Council. That's probably just a typo. You're referencing the Planning Commission.
Oh, Planning Commission, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I should know that by now.
Is the parking service going to be available to construction folks on MGM's
No,
project?
that's not planned. The parking service would only be available to, for patrons and patients.
Okay. All right, good.
Other questions or?
So there's a quarter of the original 150 is what's reflected in this draft, 37,500.
37.5.
And does that take us through 90 days? Did I understand that correctly?
So, since that time that I put this in the packet yesterday morning, the latest update is that the estimated value of the service for just the parking shuttle would be $184,000. So I would be asking for $46,000 for the quarter's worth of service. And again, we'll need to continue to evaluate if indeed we get additional costs. I would have to come back to the commission for that service. But because the annualized value of that service goes beyond that 150, I wanted to get the approval of the commission. It's quite possible that the costs of that 184 could go down based on some bidding of drivers and the like. There's some other additional potential needs, administrative expenses for the Springfield Parking Authority that have not been taken into account. Again, we'll have to have a lot of conversations, but what we really wanted to do today was we wanted to move forward as quickly as we possibly could, get the necessary approvals from the commission so that we can continue the dialogue with the city and the city's parking authority, take into account local needs, have conversations regarding is this the best service with Caring Health Center and others? Does it work? Could this work? Should the shuttle be utilized on just a temporary period while we go and procure other services? There's a number of things that we could take a look at, but I think at least initially with this collective effort to get things done as quickly as we possibly can with respect to the folks at Caring and the rest of the folks in the neighborhood, that's why I'm asking for the approval for the option today.
But, so we effectively, last time, approved and gave you all that authority about working out the scope and figuring out all those details with the 150.
Correct.
For the 150, for valet.
For valet.
So effectively, we should give you an increase, if you will, to the 184. That's effectively what you're asking for. To
Yeah.
continue, to continue with the same approach. You're working out the details, you're working out the, cost benefit, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure, I was just trying to be respectful of the commission's prerogative on this and only asking for the quarter, that we view that first 90 days as a very critical evaluative period, but to the extent that greater authorization, and again, we would work with the executive director and general counsel Blue
Right.
on everything.
Right.
But the real issue is that we are asking for authorization to look at not only a pilot valet program, but also a pilot shuttle program.
Exactly.
So
Okay.
originally, it was only the valet, and now we would be delegating to you the ability to continue to work with Caring, with the city, and whoever else, Parking Authority, to determine which use you think is the better, and to spend that 49,000 in the first 90 days on that at your discretion, right?
That's right. And
Okay.
again, this
Fair
is
enough.
the city of Springfield's grant, so we're working with them directly to
Right.
find out what is the best available method. We want to make sure that the parking service is available to the corridor. That has been a priority of the commission, and we'll continue to make sure that that is reflected in anything that is
Right.
developed by the city and all those partners.
Right. And I should disclose that Mary McGinnis used to work for me, but I have no involvement in this conversation and no financial interest in the Pioneer Valley Transit Authority.
Are you the one who
Good to know, Mr. Chair.
enabled her to be a rock star?
Yeah, it was all my doing.
Do I understand it accurately, John, that while Caring Health Center has been in the vanguard here, that this shuttle on this 10-minute loop would be available to be used by others who have been displaced by the construction at MGM?
Exactly. So what we would anticipate, it would be available to businesses in that entire corridor from Union to State along Main. We have heard from some businesses in the area that they have had some parking issues. We'd want to make sure that their issues are addressed. So in addition to Caring is would probably be the most robust utilizer of that service based on the numbers that we have seen. But it would be available to other folks. Now, we don't have expressions of interest of all businesses, but part of what we would have to do in cooperation with the city of Springfield is to determine who needs this, how do they need this, and what is the best way to move forward. But Caring and the city of Springfield put together a very robust deliberation on parking issues in the area. But in all fairness, we have heard from Caring that it has some specific needs. It put forward a valet program for a purpose. Obviously, that was their preferred when they referenced this to the city of Springfield.
Is it fair to say that one advantage of proceeding in this manner is that inasmuch as Pioneer Valley Transportation Authority, whatever the entity is, it's an existing up-and-running operation, and that the effect here with regard to the shuttle is that it's very substantially expedited the mitigation impact in response to the parking issues.
That's exactly right. It's a public agency, so an intergovernmental service agreement could be issued between the city of Springfield. Once they get their approvals with PBTA, there'd be no need for lag times regarding procurement. Mary, with their can-do attitude, said that they're ready to go whenever we're ready to go. So with all of that, there's significant benefits of the shuttle service, but we obviously have to take into account everyone's needs.
And if I'm not mistaken, John, I mean, it's everybody on the east side of Main Street, since the west side of Main Street is all MGM.
That's
So
right.
it's really businesses on that east side of the corridor.
That's right.
I think this is
When do,
good work.
yeah, I agree. When do we expect the construction to be done to the extent that this won't be a problem?
Well, we've been breaking things down into sort of subgroups of impact. Now, there's some significant utility work going on right now, water main work, and that's probably going to continue at least through the middle of September. So there's a few more weeks of that very significant impact. But there will be some other work and Joe can give you a little more detail of, and that's more towards the springtime. But what we're really looking at is the period between now and the time that the MGM garage is open. When they complete that garage, I think it's scheduled for completion around December 2017. That will provide, a lot more parking in the area. And I think that that's what we're using, at least now, for our marker on the real critical period when parking.
The issue here isn't parking. The issue here is access to the front door.
Well, both. If you take a look at what the Caring Health Center folks have put forward, is that there were a number of lots that previously were available on the MGM site.
right.
And that has
That's true.
impacted folks' ability to get parking right in that
Yeah.
vicinity. We've walked a few streets over, and yes, there are spots available on the street a few streets over, but sometimes that doesn't meet the needs of a person with a disability or others with
Yeah.
specific needs.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and there will be, parking on Main Street will be restricted at various points in time between now and the opening of the facility. There'll be some utility tie-ins, and they're going to be reconstructing that whole section of Main Street. So there's, curbing, sidewalks, other things, so there will be, definitely be parking disruptions throughout the duration. I've asked Brian Packer to put together a kind of a list for me of when we expect those things to be. But right now, of course, there's the big issue with the water main work
Right.
that's being done right now.
Okay. Other comments, thoughts, questions? I guess we need a motion here, right? Somebody, Commissioner Stebbins?
They want to speak the parent people.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Commissioners. My
Good
name is
afternoon.
Tanya Barber. I'm the President and CEO for Caring Health Center. And I'd like to say that I really appreciate the Mass Gaming Commission's commitment to looking at the impact of casino, the impact of construction by the casino. And so in respect to Ombudsman's proposal for the 90-day pilot parking for a shuttle, I just want to express my current concerns as it relates to Caring Health Center. So if we're looking at a shuttle and Caring Health Center's patients would have to drive to the other part of the city, the other part of Main Street, and we're speaking about patients who are aging, patients who are elderly, refugee patients who have large families. A family could be the size of 6 at best. And so we're asking them to drive their vehicles to the other end of Main Street, wait, suppose it's winter, we're asking them to wait outside in the cold. Families are not feeling well, families are sick, some could be coming in with influenza, some could be coming in with chickenpox, and now we're exposing other people on a shuttle to try to transport them to Caring Health Center. So I'm asking that be considered. It makes sense that valet parking, we've done the research, we've looked at all other alternative options, and while we do agree that a shuttle would be best for the businesses, the surrounding businesses in the neighborhood, we do not feel that that is the best solution for a Caring Health Center, given what I've mentioned, our patients. You're speaking of a mom who might have 3 children, 9-month-old baby, 4-year-old, and a 3-year-old, and she's trying to unload a stroller, trying to get on the shuttle, one baby on the hip, one baby running off, the kids are sick, vomiting, screaming, you're on the shuttle, and now they're out in the cold or even the heat if it's the summer months, and then, being transported all the way down to the other end of Main Street in front of Caring Health Center. And going back to Chairman Crosby's statement with regard to being able to access our facility, we have difficulty accessing our facility because we are the only one in the neighborhood who have a side street entrance. And so not only do you have the trucks on Main Street, the construction trucks on Main Street and the fencing off of Main Street, but then you have the rigs on the side of the street where there's absolutely no entrance at all on our side street. I've had to go out and apologize to patients who are there in a wheelchair who have absolutely no handicap parking. They're not able to access the building, and so for me, valet parking is the best solution because they can come in front of the health center, someone can take their vehicle, and then they don't have to worry about waiting outside in the cold. And then when you're looking at other businesses in the area, one in particular, one of the largest health facilities in Springfield, they too have a valet service for their patients. And so while the shuttle is a good alternative solution, I would see it that it's good by way of employees, but not necessarily in the best interest of patients. And again, keeping in mind, we're talking about elderly, aging, refugee, people that are sick, people that are not feeling well, and to have to wait outside, to drive themselves to an area only to wait, and whether it's 10 minutes is still a long time when you're not feeling well and you just come in and get the care that you need. Not to mention the fact that if you have influenza, we have to bring them in and we have to isolate them in a room so that they're not exposing others to whether it's the chicken pox or whether it's influenza. So I'm asking the Gaming Commission if you really would keep this in mind as you're making a decision based on the information that I just shared with you, that we think that valet parking is in the best interest of Caring Health Center. And we are willing to work with the other businesses such as Springfield Department of Health and Human Services and also Square One, who are our neighbors. And so we think that they would, of course, benefit from valet parking as well.
Is Square One another health organization?
Square One is a daycare.
Daycare, okay. What percentage of your clientele use public transportation versus private cars now, more or less, roughly?
Yeah, it's in the application. I don't have that data off top of my head, but that is a part of the application. We provided you the percentage of folks that use public transportation. We do have a good number of, I do know that we do have a good number of individuals who do have their own vehicles.
Yeah. I would think that a lot of people are using public transportation already, which presents a lot of the problems that you've described, and it's in the nature of public transportation, and it's just beyond the shuttle.
We do have some individuals who use public transportation. However, we also have a good percentage of patients who own their own vehicles and are not able to access parking.
Right, okay.
I think that
Yeah.
I don't have, my name is Jasmine Naylor. I'm the Executive Vice President at Caring Health Center. I don't have the exact figures in front of me, but I did spend extensive time with the team collecting data and doing surveys on this exact question. And I do know that information should be in the original application. But what I can say, the fact that I do recall, is that over the years, most recently with our most recent survey, is that more patients are driving themselves to Caring Health Center, which used to not be the case many years ago. So while we do still have a percentage using the public transit system, more of our patients are actually driving themselves.
Can you state your name again for the record? I think we missed it.
Yes. My name is Jasmine Naylor with Caring Health Center.
Thank you. Questions, other comments?
If I understand correctly, the approach that Mr. Siemba is asking here is to do it's not an alternative necessarily. It's an increase of an additional option that is being contemplated here. In addition to the valet parking that we already discussed last meeting, to test in a similar way the shuttle. So, while you paint scenarios that are very important to consider and so on, it does not come at the expense of the pilot program for the valet parking. Is that a fair statement?
Well, no, I think what we're recommending is that we move forward with one option or the other rather than both concurrently, but that's certainly something we could discuss with Springfield. That has significant cost implications, I would imagine, of trying to run concurrent programs.
Right, so we're authorized then to pick one,
To
basically.
pick one. in
To pick
conjunction
one.
Or if
with the
it may turn out that there's some kind of an amalgamation, I don't know what there is, but
Correct.
that would be within what we're giving to you.
Yep.
I hear your points, absolutely, and John has represented your your concerns about this all along. I don't think we're the right ones to decide whether it ought to be a shuttle or a valet or some combination. You know, I think that you and Springfield and probably the Springfield Public Health people would be pretty significant players in that decision-making process. But we certainly hear and are directing John to take that into consideration when he's making the decisions on this.
I agree, and with that being said, then I'd like to be a part of those meetings, a part of those conference calls and meetings, because I have been excluded from those meetings, while John has been very great in contacting me to let me know that the conference calls has taken place. In terms of details, I have not been provided with details, with the exception of yesterday, late yesterday afternoon. So I think that it is very important, as we are a partner with the city of Springfield, I think that it's very important that we do have a seat at the table so that we can express, you know, what are some of the variables that maybe are not being looked at as it relates to Caring Health Center and other neighbors within the South End corridor.
Ms. Barber and I discussed this a little bit earlier today, and I did reference to her, and I think she agreed that the details of even the option, I think, were discussed in more concrete fashion by 8:30 a.m. yesterday morning, and I gave her a phone call to give her the details of that, probably around 10 o'clock or 10:30. So we're trying to work in real time to provide updates to Caring, but again, the way that we view this application is this is the city of Springfield's application, and that Caring's needs are a big part of the concerns in that area, but there are other needs in that area that sometimes just the public entities have to take a look at, but obviously there's some concerns that have been raised, Caring's concerns raised today. That has to be part of all of the equation that is considered by Springfield and by us in being able to move forward.
John, I mean, I appreciate also hearing about, you know, some of the points expressed by Caring Health Center. I do also appreciate the speed and efficiency of which we can get some solution up and operating. But I think to your point, you know, kind of ongoing, you know, I think, you know, doing a lot, you know, I think a lot of the water main work that's interrupting a lot of the parking isn't necessarily only related to the MGM project. I mean, there's been geysers along Main Street for a number of years. So there are other folks, I think, even within City Hall that would be helpful to have at this table, look at timelines for when parking is going to be, you know, be made available. So this kind of ongoing analysis, ongoing review to see if, you know, what we're suggesting and what we're working in partnership with the city and the PVTA on continues to be helpful to all of the parties involved, including Caring Health.
Commissioner, exactly. One of the things that we've been discussing in just those meetings since a couple weeks ago is that there obviously has to be a big, robust outreach to all the businesses up and down the corridor. MGM hears from folks as it has its butters meetings, has its contacts. We're going to utilize that. MGM has offered to provide names of folks that with which it does business, and then we'll work with the city of Springfield. But that outreach activity is one of the first things to do to learn of what concerns there may be out there, who wants to take advantage of it, who won't take advantage of it. Part of the 90-day recommendation is we have to see whatever service, valet or shuttle, is it being utilized, is it cost effective, what tweaks can be done, and the like. But I should have mentioned as part of my initial remarks, one of the first and foremost things has to be that outreach up and down that corridor, which I don't think it really has been done to date.
I would just like to add that I probably agree with what John said in terms of the other businesses. However, Caring Health Center has done extensive research in terms of what we felt would be the needs for, again, our patients. And so we submitted an application February 1st, 2016. We've answered all of the questions that were posed to us. And so for me, the longer that we delay, it's going to only impair our ability to provide health care to our patients. And so, I mean, I would like, in the interim, if we are provided with at least the valet parking that we're proposing for our patients. Our patients are being impacted now and have been impacted for several months now. You know, and again, I sympathize with the family who pulls up and has nowhere to take their mother or parent out of their vehicle, you know, who's in need of handicap accessibility, because there's absolutely nowhere for them to pull up in front, take the wheelchair out, get their parent inside. Then it delays the process, you know, places the providers behind in seeing other patients. So there's a ripple effect, you know what I mean? So I'm just, again, asking that you all consider that as well.
And I'd just like to add one additional thing as well, is the application that was submitted was very robust and extensive. And we believe that that application should be approved for the valet parking. And between now and the next application deadline, the thorough review that is necessary to take into consideration the other stakeholders is done. And in that next application review, we will have data on how successful the valet parking is, in addition to what potential other alternative or better solutions exist, but allow that to take place in the next application cycle if one choice must be chosen.
You know, I know we discussed this before, but our constraint is that, in general, the Community Mitigation Fund goes to cities and towns hence its name, and which is why we're operating, and as John emphasizes, these we view as a Springfield application. I mean, you make important points, and we hear you, but the city is an important element here at an important stakeholder here at the table. And, you know, we'll communicate, as I know you do, to the city that communication among, with you should perhaps improve. But we have the constraint of making sure that money goes to these cities and towns, and then they figure out how the local mitigation is addressed. Also, I forget if it's what article, but if we open the door to private entities for these sort of funds, we may go down a road that we cannot go, which is why, again, the city here is an important stakeholder.
You know, just to be fair about this, one of the issues is speed, and we'd like to start this Monday morning. Whatever decision gets made, we'd like to make it immediately. February to now is a long time for this kind of a problem to fester. But I wouldn't be surprised, but if you said to Mary McGinnis, could you do a valet program? She probably could, you know, and it could, you know, I haven't really thought it through, but I'll bet that she could figure out a way to start something up pretty quickly if indeed it was decided by the various stakeholders that the valet program was the better way to go, but for timing.
Well, I think she would have to probably procure the valet service because they have on-site drivers, but I'm not sure that they have the sort of the valet service providers.
Well, it might be worth, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if they've got drivers, maybe they've got drivers that could use some overtime and, you know, would be happy to stand at the door and wait and drive a car back and forth. I don't know, but it's just a thought.
And again, one thing to mention is that, you know, I think that we've been working pretty proactively to get all the parties together to move as quickly as we possibly can. So quickly that, you know, we scheduled this meeting even before we had any ideas that we were going to present. We referenced that to you. And so we're trying to move quickly as we can. We understand the needs out in the area. And what was determined by that group was that the shuttle service was definitely seemed to be the quickest possible opportunity.
Right. Okay.
The valet service would take a little bit of procurement.
Okay.
Who knows what we can do in that regard? People will have to have further conversations.
Right. I mean, we're not in the business of making decisions about what services should be provided. We're in the business of responding to applications from cities and towns that ask us for money to do certain things.
Correct.
You know, So it's really got to be driven by Springfield, frankly. I mean, if Springfield says they want a valet, that's their judgment, then that would be where we would tend to want to go. That's the way we've conducted our business all along. It's been in deference to the city and town decision-making structure.
And I would add that the city, of course, we are partnering with the city, and of course, you know, we have the support of the city council, who also is aware of our application. And respectfully to, I can't see your name, Commissioner.
Zuniga.
Zuniga. I agree with, you know, what your role and responsibility as it relates to the city. And so again, with us partnering with the city, and then of course, willing to bring others in, such as I mentioned earlier, the Springfield Department of Health and Human Services in Square One, you know, then it is the community. It's the, you know, and I do understand that you have to go above and beyond to look at all the other businesses that are impacted. However, before an immediate resolution, the city is in partner with us with the valet parking. And we do have the support of our mayor. We do have the support of the city council on behalf of the application submitted for valet parking. It's already gone through that process.
Well, it sounds like, as Chairman says, you know, continue to evaluate this. You know, as far as we're concerned, if you need additional monies to make the workable solution that satisfies the most, you know, we'll look at it, or we have looked at it, and we can authorize more money, or the incremental money. But it really does sound like the city is an important stakeholder here, and to the extent that all those conversations can continue to happen to figure out what the most workable solution that satisfies the most people is, you know, we're all for it.
I would note, Commissioner, that you know, one of the charges that I think that you have given the fund is that it enables partnerships that can be sustainable. And the way that the Community Mitigation Fund was drafted, it was very much that partnership between the licensee, the host community, and the Gaming Commission. And I think if you take a look at the guidelines, it respected the ability of all three entities to provide some part of the solution. So to the degree that additional funding is necessary from one or more entities, it's great that the city of Springfield has expressed support, and perhaps it can provide, you know, concomitant resources in the future if things get more beyond what we have in the application.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. In fact, we've done that in other instances with the sheriff, for example, as you suggest.
Okay, so we need a motion to authorize the use of the funds for either of these two purposes, for the use of, let's say, up to $50,000 for the use of these two purposes. Somebody want to put that on the table?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we direct the Ombudsman and MGC staff to enact a program as it has been discussed for a 3-month basis at a total cost of $50,000 for the first 90 days, and instruct staff to continue to work with the city, applicant parties, other stakeholders to monitor and come back to us in 90 days with any potential recommendations, or earlier if there are significant changes that need to be made.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more item from the Ombudsman. I think we'll do that and then take a lunch break. I'm going to take another break right this minute anyway, but I just for planning purposes. So we'll do the update from Plain Ridge, then we'll take a lunch break, and then we'll get to the Investigations and Enforcement Bureau and the various items under there. We'll be right back. We are ready to reconvene Public Meeting 198, Ombudsman Ziemba.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We now have the quarterly report from Plain Ridge Park. We're joined by Mike Thomas, Plain Ridge Park Slots Director, Eli Heward, Purchasing Manager, Michelle Collins, Managing Director, and Lisa McKenney, Compliance Manager. I'm going to turn it over to them.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
Start off, employment. No material changes from previous updates in this area. Full-time, part-time mix remains largely consistent at 67-33, with the total amount of employees at 499. One thing I'd like to point out is the total employee count for Q1 was 522, and as stated for Q2, it's 499. This can be attributed to the turnover in a few areas and the time it's taken to backfill some of those positions. Our current staff is now at 514, and we have 30 open recs that we're filling. Additional information on the workforce?
Is there a particular area of work where you're seeing more turnover than in other positions?
A lot in food and beverage and security, mostly.
Okay.
Continued good news that relates to diversity hiring. At the end of Q2, the property was at 16.6, exceeding the goal of 10%. In addition, Massachusetts residents comprise 70% of Plain Ridge Park's workforce. The property continues to place a priority on diversity hiring and hiring in state. Additionally, our male-female ratio is 51-49, and the percentage of veterans is 3%. Continuing with employment, numbers relating to promotions and transfers. It's good news for our employees on all fronts. Promotions and the number of employees that are taking on larger roles for the property is 29 for Q2, and the number of internal transfers from department to department is 6. Revenue and taxes. Revenue is on a monthly basis, and a total has been provided as well as a 2015 number. All in for Q2, a combination of taxes paid to the Commonwealth and fees paid to the horsemen at 49%, totals just over 19.1 million, and with the gaming revenue just over 39.1 million. The net win per unit was 344 in Q2 compared to 340 in Q1, and the best month that we had in Q2 was in April, which came in at 357. With that, I'll turn it over to Eli.
Before we leave that, I did have a question on employment numbers. And you can answer this later if you don't know the answer, obviously. But your host community agreement identified what I would say, rather ambitious number of 90% of local hiring. That was when the host community agreement was signed.
Correct.
We've had a number of discussions along the way, a number of reports. This is a very high goal. We've gone and talked about the surrounding communities and identified along the way, gateway cities nearby as particular areas of focus where, this goal could also be counted towards. The auditor, or the state auditor, identified this area as a finding in the audit that they conducted for us. Has there been any, and will remain so, and we'll see when that comes out. But is there any thought relative to clarifying that goal, specifying any more detail, revising it, or really striving to achieve it? What could you tell me to that effect?
I would probably have to get back to you with specifics, but as you already know, we ran job fairs in all of the host communities. We gave preferential hiring to those communities. We worked with workforce development to help target applicants from those communities. And in those communities in our host agreement, they had a low applicant pool. I mean, there was a low number of applicants from those areas. But it obviously remains a priority with hiring with Plain Ridge Park.
Yeah, and part of the reason I'm asking, again, to consider maybe Lance can come back the next time and tell us more about what may be, the thought process. But My guess is that now you're obviously constrained by, by turnover, because you're already 1 year mature and so on. So if we need to revise, adjust, clarify, or simply let it be, I just wanted to highlight that because at least in the mind of somebody who looked at this, because they look at many things, the state auditor identified this as, an area that they felt they needed to mention. So perhaps, again, just for some time in the next quarterly report, is there anything that we can further discuss on this topic?
Absolutely. We'll put something together internally.
Thank you.
I would just add to that, it's pretty well accepted that the first year is always the toughest year in terms of retention of employees. It'd be great if next time we got together, we could focus a little bit of our conversation on that too, in terms of what you expected to see the first year, what you realized the first year, and then, some of the strategies you may look at going forward to, reduce that as you go into years further out.
Absolutely.
Next up.
Sure. So moving on into the procurement category. You can see by the slide here, we have significant spend in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts done by Clarence Park Casino. More than 2/3 of our spend has been done within vendors of the Commonwealth. The next states involved would be Nevada, Iowa, Illinois, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And then the remaining 12% would be other states around the country.
Eli, just quickly, I went back and looked at your first quarter. Some of the numbers stay consistent in, Iowa and Illinois.
Sure.
I'm assuming you don't have to say one way or the other. Some of them might be based on national contracts, but it might be helpful for Jill and I to come out and visit with you and see where we can, again, help you dig into maybe some more local spending opportunities. with
Absolutely.
Local business.
Welcome the opportunity if you guys come down.
Okay.
Good idea.
So shifting over to local host community agreements. Got 3 large focus areas in Rentham, Mansfield, and North Attleboro. A lot of that really stems from the various needs from Q2. A lot of it was marketing and some other various materials that we needed for some projects that we had along the way. Next up is vendor diversity. We're overall pleased with the diversity for this quarter. This was by far the best quarter that we've had so far in the WBE and VBE categories. Recognizing we still have some work that needs to be done in the MBE area. There was a slight drop in this category, which could be attributed to a couple different factors. Most dramatic was the discontinuation of a bus marketing vendor whose services were proved to not be profitable. We have since hired a bus marketing manager who has put together some very exciting programs for us, and we are starting to use those vendors as of the last couple weeks. 2 of those vendors that we've put together for the bus marketing program are minority-owned businesses, and they were approved as of mid-July. So we started those programs with them as soon as their licenses came through.
Are those yearly goals or Q2 goals? The blue?
Those are our commitments. Our goals are the 12% for women-owned, 6% for minority-owned, and 3% for veteran-owned. Those are our standard goals across the board, every quarter, every year.
Okay.
So the results of the efforts of the bus marketing program will start to appear in the Q3 report. We've also got a couple categories that we are bidding out as we speak, and we feel that these areas, we have a strong presence of diverse vendors to be included in this. Looking ahead, we're in the midst of our 2017 budgetary planning program. The purchasing department will be working very closely with various departments around the property and gather quotes for as many traditionally disadvantaged vendors as possible and start the registration process now if necessary. Lastly, we already offer a 5% consideration on all bids that involve diverse vendors, and we try and include as many diverse vendors as we can to all of these bids that we're doing for various programs across the property.
5% consideration, what does that mean?
That means if a diverse vendor goes up against a non-diverse vendor, we'll allow a 5% of the
bids?
5% allowance, I guess, for the minority-owned vendors. So as long as they're within 5% of the next low bid, we would opt to
Okay, in
offer
terms
them.
of the price you're talking about?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So we will be looking at each purchase very carefully and increase the consideration threshold in situations where it makes good business sense to do so. Any questions on those areas?
Nope.
Next slide is compliance with regulations. Specifically, it focuses on underage guests. As you can see from the slide, team members, along with the Gaming Commission and the state police, are continuing to identify underage guests attempting to come into the casino, and they prevented 128 underage guests from entering the casino during the quarter. You can also see that we did not identify any underage guests on the gaming floor or found consuming alcohol either. It's pretty good news and a good slide. And we're just confident in the success in this area will continue as we move forward. If there are no questions from the commission, I'll send the next slides over to Michelle.
Good work there.
Yeah.
100%.
It's good work, and it's all coordination with the on-site gaming commissioners and state police.
Excellent.
Yeah, good job.
So going into lottery sales, online, we had 250,000. Instant tickets, the scratch tickets was 507,000 with a total in lottery for 758.
This is for the quarter.
This is for the quarter, and,
Jesus.
yeah, I know. Note that there is an 8% increase compared
Wow.
to Q1. And again, a good portion of that is also attributed to the Winning Wednesdays we do with the lottery. So on site, we give out Red Sox lottery tickets. That's what we did for Wednesdays in April and May, and that attributed to 6% of that 8%, I think, for the increase.
Six, meaning 3/4 of the 8?
Yeah,
Came
correct.
from- came-
Yeah, typically we see about 900 to 1,000 people show up for that giveaway, and it's anywhere between $1 and a $20 ticket based on card level.
Excellent.
Charitable contributions, so Lance mentioned this in the last review. We are doing the Winning Wednesdays with the Red Sox NISN sponsorship. To date, they have won 11 games, so that money will be going to Relay for Life. In addition to that, we did the Relay for Life Walk, which is an initiative through Penn, and 23 of our properties actually are doing something with Relay for Life. We placed number 4 in the amount of money we raised, and we actually had an individual who walked 31 miles for this, and he was number 1 in the amount of money he raised, number 1 out of 590 participants. So his name is Chuck Cassidy. We're very proud of him.
He's one of your employees?
He is.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
That's
he's
awesome.
the facilities manager.
Great.
We also hosted a Doug Flutie Foundation for Autism benefit in Flutie's Restaurant, where we were able to raise $20,000 through the sale of tickets to guests. It was about 100 people who attended, and we did live auction items and that sort of thing.
Excellent.
Continued partnerships and sponsorships. Again, as you know, we've partnered with Xfinity, with Fenway Concert Series. I mentioned NESN Red Sox pre- and post-game, which was beneficial during the Responsible Gaming Education Week, because we were able to do live reads during the games that had to do with responsible gaming. The Rentham Outlet Road Trip Expo, this is the first one they did this year, so we joined with them and had a partnership where we attended the event. Unfortunately, it rained that day, so the attendance wasn't great, but of the vouchers we did give out, we saw a 60% redemption rate, which is pretty substantial.
What does it Outlet Road Trip Expo mean? What is it?
So they had cars show up, like antique cars. They're supposed to be, yeah.
Wow.
But as I said, it was the first year, so the turnout wasn't what they were hoping. Day trips and destinations. This year we partnered with Southeastern Mass CVB, and we had a booth there, and it actually was in Connecticut, and we found out that awareness in Connecticut about Plain Ridge Park Casino is extremely low. So it was a good opportunity. There was about 4,000 attendees, so we were able to get some good traction on some bus leads, about 25 bus leads.
Great.
And then the Massachusetts Coalition of Police event at Patriot Place. This was about 700 police men from the force, men and women, and we sponsored the presidential dinner that they had, and we gave away raffles that were play and stay packages. We partnered with local hotels and gave that out as prizes. So some of the events that you should be familiar with, because we highlighted them in the last presentation. We had partnered with Bass Pro Shops, and we did a pontoon boat giveaway. Winning Wednesdays, as I already mentioned, where we do the lottery tickets. We presented a new idea, a concept called the monthly Massachusetts Champion Slot Tournament. So currently, we have about 680 people who have participated over the course of the last few months. And on the 12th month, we'll do a really big event and try and get a celebrity in to host it and that sort of thing. And they get this commemorative belt that's got the plate, and it's pretty cool. Wizard of Oz necklace giveaway. This was a concept we did trying to really promote what kind of new product we're putting on the floor. So the marketing team dressed as the Wizard of Oz, and we gave out some gifts. Marquee Rewards Universal Benefits. We're currently working on different local sponsors so that the benefits of the card are created not only across the Penn universe, but also so that we can do more with businesses and share our customer base. Live racing, as you know, began in April, and we had the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont Stakes. Kentucky Derby, we had a 19% increase in revenue year over year. Preakness had a 15%, and Belmont was a 5%, which are all significant considering last year we were up against the Crown, so it's quite impressive. And then again,
Michelle, what is that increase over? Attendance, live handle?
yeah, revenue, actual
Revenue.
racing revenue.
Okay.
Mhm. And then our one-year anniversary, as you know. So we did a motorcycle giveaway and a Mustang giveaway for that weekend. Some of our Q3 initiatives, as I mentioned, the Charter and Line Run. It's a bus program that started in mid-July. Currently, we're in Malden, Revere, Everett, Warwick, and Fall River, other locations in downtown Boston where we're picking up. Both of the bus groups that we're working with are women and minority-owned. So as Eli mentioned, that'll get our numbers back up going into Q3 with the spend. Responsible Gaming Education Week, as you know, August 1st to the 5th, we had done that presentation. One thing I do want to note that I thought was impressive, and obviously this is a tribute to the fact that Play My Way was getting so much recognition, there was about a 30% spike in signups during that week compared to what we typically see. Flutie's Brothers Band, they did a play at the Revolution Lounge on the last day during that week. And one of the things we're starting to do, as I mentioned earlier, is kind of work with local businesses and restaurants so that our customers can experience what else is offered, you know, in the area. And last night we did our first event at Luciano's where we had about 15 of our guests, and we hosted a dinner there. Patriot season ticket sponsorship. So we've partnered with the Patriots where we purchased 4 tickets for the season. So we'll be able to do giveaways out of Fluties and really promote and try and get some of the business that we obviously see diminish when there's a Patriots game. Last year we really didn't do much because we didn't know the market as well as we do now. So we'll have an opportunity to test different things and try things. Tiffany gift giveaway, we partnered with Tiffany's for our tier launch. So people who were upgraded into a new tier level received a gift from Tiffany's. We extended our partnership with Xfinity with a Brad Paisley meet and greet, so 4 of our customers will actually get to meet and greet with Brad Paisley. And then again, we continue with the larger giveaways on a monthly basis for the pontoon boat Wrangler, Jeep Wrangler this month, and the Ford Explorer that we'll be doing next month.
Those giveaways, I'm just curious, does any patron at the casino can get a raffle ticket, or how do they work generally?
For the Brad Paisley?
For
Or-
the, the boat or the
There's a couple different ways
the-
we do it.
yeah.
Typically with a boat, it's sweepstakes, so it's a month-long earning period. They play with their Marquee Rewards card. They actually earn points while they're playing, and it accumulates
Yep.
throughout until we do the drawing. Other times for maybe Brad Paisley, it might be more of a concentrated group that we're targeting where they earn entries, or it's a ballot, or that sort of thing.
So if you're playing on if it's a Marquee Rewards, so if you spend X dollars, you have X chances in a drawing? Is that how it
Correct.
works?
It's
in effect?
yeah, so you earn essentially a virtual entry.
Right.
And when your card is in, there's a display where you can press a button to actually see what you have for entries.
Right, okay.
To admit, I don't know who Brad Paisley is.
Oh, you don't?
Country.
I don't either.
Yeah, good.
He's friends with Florida Georgia Line.
Yeah, yeah,
Shows my music preference.
yeah.
I wasn't going to mention it, but I didn't know either.
Oh, I know. Was there an uptick in, did people come to see Flutie's band?
They did. I think most of them were friends of Flutie's.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Any other questions for me? No? All right, so Eli's going to go over our Q2 projects.
So our final slide, we're going to wrap it up here with what we kind of accomplished in Q2 and some things that we're going to highlight in Q3. We had a fairly substantial sized video poker sign installed on the property in the back over to the left of the Revolution Lounge to highlight our video poker area. It's a large sign that hangs on the wall. The installation went in on the 8th of this month. It was done by Matriarch, who is another women-owned business. The sign is going to hopefully draw some more attention to that area as a focal point. It kind of matches and mirrors the decor of the casino floor, and has some LED lighting in it that can change along with the signs at the Revolution Lounge as well. So it really ties in nicely to the property. You can't miss it when you walk in the door, and it looks great. Some capital improvements that we did on the racing side. We completed the paddock and barn renovations that were started in Q1, and we also installed a high-definition video tote board on the racing side as well. Really great if you want to catch a Red Sox game on the off racing days. It's nice. Very large screen.
Oh, do you play them out there? Do you put the games on there?
Sometimes,
Oh.
when we're not racing or when there's not simulcast going on, if there's a game that's of interest, yeah, the game can be played out there.
Those are really nice improvements.
Yes, they're gorgeous to the property. We're really happy to have that completed. And coming up in Q3, we're going to do some renovations in the garage. There is currently no LED lighting in the garage. We're going to upgrade that to LED lighting, and we expect to see some savings of $6,000 a month starting in October. So with that, we're working with a vendor who's acting as a consultant for us, and we have asked them we've provided to them 3 or 4 different vendors that are all diverse vendors that are currently registered with the Gaming Commission that can supply the installers with the appropriate materials needed to complete the installation. So that's going to be another big boost to those different vendors.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a process in place with Plain Ridge to monitor the capital expenditure?
It's forthcoming. Right.
You're talking about their capital expenditures required by statute?
Right.
We are discussing that with them currently.
Okay, because I just was making sure you keep track of your capital expenditures, because that's going to
Yes.
fit into the mix
A
at some
couple of,
point.
a couple of these would
Yeah,
count. in
right,
my-
right.
yeah.
Right. Okay, great. Anything else?
We're done. Thank you very much.
Great,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.
Good work.
Thank you.
Yeah. And good month in July. Okay, we are done with the Ombudsman report, I believe. The next up is the IEB. Why don't we come back at 1:30?
Good idea.
And we will pick up item number 6.